You got an echo.
Echo.
Good. Hang on 1 second. I guess do I still have an echo?
Nope.
All right. Well, welcome to Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. A little bit rebranded. I'm your host, Gene Walzak, the NFL genius. To my right on the camera, I got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College Cottrell.
What's going
to my
on?
left, what's happening? Sorry, I'm getting used to this intro. It's a little different. To my left, I got the man, the myth, the legend, Uncle Shally.
What's up?
What's happening? Got a lot to get into today. I got to figure out how to view this properly. Working on the view. But I think we're moving.
Just make it bigger.
Over. There we go. Bigger. I can see you guys. I'm just trying to see the show properly. I want to watch the show. But we got a ton to get into. We're gonna get to my camera is so terrible. But
just you.
We're gonna get into a ton of stuff this week. We got UFC. We're gonna talk about the Amanda Nunes fight. Gonna get into that. After the UFC fights, we're gonna talk about the MLB trade deadline. You got Deshaun Watson talk, the Mount Rushmores. There's a million things we're getting into. Pac-12 preview. Who's winning the North? Who's winning the South? How you like the? I love the new episode 95, the new graphics. What you guys think?
I like it.
Of course.
You need to get in the center, though.
I don't even know how to get in the center. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
It's just
move over here.
Simple math.
Here.
There you go.
Centered.
Simple math.
I'm like all the way to the right, but it's fine. But let's get started. I feel good. You guys feel good?
Do.
Absolutely.
It's a really terrible start to a show. I feel awful, actually. No, I'm kidding. But, let's get rolling. UFC card was huge. Had a lot of duds, in my opinion. But the two main fights were exactly what you wanted them to be. I want to start with the Lioness, Amanda Nunes, 5-round destruction. I had it 50-44. Your thoughts on the fight? Cottrell, Bill, start us off.
Well, I don't know how you could have really seen anything different. It was domination. She came in. I noticed at the weigh-in, she looked a little leaner. She was definitely in better shape. And we got the motivated Amanda Nunes that she said we were going to get all week. She came in, did not mess around whatsoever from the start all the way to the end. I will give her credit for finishing that fight because I thought there was numerous times that I don't know if she's going to tap out, but I could have saw her, her corner thrown in the towel. That was vintage Amanda Nunes. I mean, that's what it was. That's what we were all expecting, and that's what we got. She's the best female fighter on the planet. She showed it last Saturday night, and I mean, we'll see what's next. I heard Pena had to go in for emergency surgery because her forehead was so messed up from all the punches. It was a beating, man. I mean, that's what you expect from her, and that's the caliber of fighter she is when she's motivated. And that was the difference. I don't take anything away from Pena. She's obviously just a badass, tough chick, man, to take that for 25 minutes. But that's the separation. I mean, that's the difference. When she wants to fight and she wants to be that aggressive and be technical like that and clean, she's on a different planet. And that's what you're gonna get.
So with the one thing that really kind of stood out to me was Juliana Pena. That sounds crazy. I gave her zero chance to win that fight. What stood out to me was how tough she was. I knew she was tough. I didn't know she was that tough.
She took a beating. Like that was like a beating. That was another level. I said that. I give her all the credit in the world. As a fighter, motivated Amanda, I just don't think she's in that class, though. I don't know if we need to see that fight again. I guess maybe you get it down the road just as a show of respect because she did beat her the first time, but I don't need to see it again.
I don't think they're fighting again. I think that it's very clear what the next fight's going to be. I think Cottrell's girl is going to get her shot, and I think Cottrell will be on the losing end of a Valentina Amanda Nunes fight because that trilogy is coming.
Cottrell? Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. Dana finally gave it some credence. Normally, Dana's the one that's saying, hey, this isn't something that I want to see. But this time in the press conference, Dana said, "Hey, we might have this happen." So I'm excited. I think that's something that'll get signed, and I look forward to it. I don't want to definitively say that Valentina can't win that fight because I think she absolutely could. But I mean, going into that fight, I would imagine Amanda is going to be a pretty good favorite amongst everybody, and I'm sure the sport books are going to be behind Amanda as well.
See, I was going to say, I wanted to ask Gene. Odds wise, I don't think that fight's that crazy.
Mine is 210.
I was only going to say 240. I mean, I think she's in that range. I mean, Valentina's going to get her respect. I mean, I don't think anybody thinks that fight's going to be a walkthrough by any means, or I think Amanda's going to be favored. I think more people will pick Amanda than Valentina, but I think it'll be a good fight. I don't think Vegas is going to go nuts with the money line in that fight.
I think the fact that Valentina's got to go up 10 pounds and Amanda Nunes in shape looked a lot different. She could look. Bill, you said it perfectly. In the weigh-in, you could see it.
Yep, she looked drastically different than she did last fight. Like she was prepared, she was motivated, she was definitely in shape. And I mean, listen, all the credit, like we said to Pena already, to take a beating like that, but to be able to go that hard and beat on somebody like that for 25 minutes, you have to be in good shape to do that as well. That's not easy either. So, if we're going to get Valentina, I would say I want it now. Her coming off that fight, getting her belt back, she seems to be in the right headspace now, and kind of have the hunger to fight again. I think it's the best time for it.
Agreed. I think that you're going to get that fight, and I think that's what it will be. I just don't think that Valentina is going to fare very well in that matchup. Going up 10 pounds to fight against the Lioness is just no walk in the park. And
she's done it before.
She has. I think this is a different Amanda Nunes than when they fought 6 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, Saturday, that reminded me of like Cyborg, Amanda. Like that was.
And the only thing that surprised me the most was she dropped Juliana 4 times in the first 2 rounds. Just dropped her. And Juliana kept coming, kept fighting. Yeah. Now, they say something about Amanda injuring her leg or her knee in that fight because she was on crutches afterwards. And I thought it was very interesting how she kept trying to take the fight to the mat in the 4th and 5th round when that's obviously where she wanted to fight. That's obviously where Juliana wanted to fight, was on the ground. She was constantly trying to get a submission.
I mean, I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen the medical suspensions yet, though. I mean, so that would, with you saying that would be very interesting to look at to see if she does. Because if not, I mean, if she came out of that clean or relatively clean, I would suspect Dana's going to try to put that on the December card if he's going to book it. I don't know why they would wait much longer than that. Amanda's obviously in shape, so if she didn't get anything, if she didn't break anything, or she's not medically suspended to where she has to stay down for 2 or 3 months, then I would assume we get that card, and we get that on the December card, maybe even November, and just make that card the GOAT of all time at this point.
Yeah,
I don't know about that. I was gonna say I don't think you rush Amanda back in there. There's no reason to. I think you can fill a card with other great fights. I mean, I
don't think it'll be November.
Jones and Stipe. I don't think that you see Amanda again this year. Her walking off on crutches, I know she did a lot of damage in that fight, but I mean, Juliana, for what it was, like she delivered some damage too. It was never anything crazy, and Amanda was never in any danger outside of the couple submission attempts. But Amanda walking off on crutches, I think that's enough for her to say, let's shut it down for the rest of this year. I am the double champ, and I don't think there's really nobody that's next up or anything like that. So I don't know why you would rush that fight. Maybe they fight in like February or something. Give Amanda 6 months off to get herself right and give her a full camp to go against Valentina if that's the fight you want to make.
I completely agree with you, and I think that but I do think you'll find out that Amanda hurt something in her leg. I guarantee it, or something, because she was on crutches after the fight.
Yep.
And if you watch that 4th and 5th round, it was very clear she wanted to fight on her feet the first 3 rounds, and in that 4th and 5th round, she constantly went for takedowns. And I even said that to you guys in the text chat that we have, is it just didn't seem like. I don't know why she's going to the ground. The only way Juliana was winning that fight was a submission attempt.
Yep.
Well,
Agreed.
I can answer it now. I googled it real quick. Both Amanda and Pena both received indefinite suspension. So yeah, she's not fighting the rest of this year. I would say at that point you probably don't see her till early spring next year, probably like March or April. So
I just want to know what the extent of the injury was. I guarantee it was a leg injury.
It doesn't say anything about the specific injuries, but let's see.
Her eye was bruised pretty bad too. Amanda's
indefinite, but a minimum of 45 days. Juliana Pena is indefinite, a minimum of 60 days. So yeah, I mean, I doubt it. Then I mean, you're putting Nunez the middle of September at that point before she could get cleared and start training. So I mean, maybe December if they really want to do it, if she's not hurt. But if that leg's banged up, then yeah, I would say that's probably it for 2022.
Okay. Well, let's. We got to talk about another fight on that card. Kai Kara France. I didn't expect him to get knocked out by a gut punch, but Brandon Moreno caught him clean and flush with that. You could see him drop down. That punch by Moreno was something else. He was controlling the fight. It was a pretty dominant fight to say the least. I don't think Kai Kara France really stood much of a chance in the fight, but in that third round, that punch, and it almost felt like, you ever watched the movie Will Ferrell the Tropics? What's the name of the movie?
The basketball
league. Semi-pro. Semi-pro where he punches him in that specific to make him throw up right in their stomach, right, and that's part of the movie. It almost felt like he hit him right there. I don't know what the name of that muscle is, but it almost felt like he landed a punch right there, and Moreno just dropped down. France just dropped down, and that was the end of that. Your thoughts on that fight, Cottrell? I mean, I'm just wondering.
So I think that that fight was obviously Brandon Moreno was the dominant fighter in that round, in that fight. I will say that third round though, Kai Kara France was starting to get it going up until the last minute of that round, and that's when Moreno got the combos together, and I was afraid that he was going to knock him out, and then he did, but I definitely wasn't expecting it to be from a body blow. I thought it was going to be something up top, and that was something that Kai Kara France clearly didn't see coming, because when he dropped, I mean, he was just so stunned, and right afterwards he was just like, defeated, and it was kind of sad to see in the aspect that he was in front of Adesanya, in front of Volk, and they were cheering for him, CKB, and he knew that was his opportunity. But at the same time, I think everyone wants to see a fourth matchup between Moreno and Figueiredo, because the way that the last two have gone, you just know that that's going to be the fight to see. So in the end, I think this is a win for all the fans involved, but Kai Kara France, I was definitely expecting a better showing.
Yeah, I almost feel bad for Kai Kara France, because I feel like he is a fighter he has bad timing right now. I think those guys are just both definitively better than him, but I think Kai Kara France is almost better than everybody else in the division. He's just one of those guys stuck in limbo right now. But yeah, we're gonna get Moreno Figueiredo 4. To Cottrell's point, that's what everybody wants to see. I think we need a definitive ending to. Well, I mean, it's not gonna be a trilogy at this point, but we need a definitive ending to it. I mean, Moreno has the interim belt now again. You got to unify the belts, and we have to figure out once and for all who's the better fighter between the two, and crown a champion, and then move on. So I will be excited to watch that fight. I think it'll be another great fight. And then we'll see who really the king is at that weight class, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Well, that's anything else UFC you guys want to talk about?
News about Tom Aspinall finally broke.
Yeah.
MCL and meniscus.
I mean, we kind of noticed. We kind of seen that though when you watched it. Aspinall is an absolute animal. He'll be back, but I don't blame anyone for not wanting to wait for a rematch.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's move on. UFC we'll get a lot more in for the next pay-per-view at 278. But I can't wait till 280, man. 280 is just October. You can't get any closer to me. I might go down to Atlantic City and just watch that all day.
Wouldn't be a bad thing to do.
I'll be in Florida.
Is that Worlds Week?
Yep.
Look at you. Look at you. All right, well, let's move on. Next thing is the MLB trade deadline. It seemed like it was going to be uneventful, and then the last few hours of the trade deadline, it went nuts.
It was a good one.
Yeah, it was. Soto to the Padres, man.
It's the best. This is the best, most active one with not a lot of like minor moves. Like obviously the Soto one, overshadows everything, but there was still a lot of very good players that changed teams to good teams. Like there are teams that were, on the fringe or even contenders that got stronger. So it was fun to watch. A lot of teams that were good got better. And I'm excited for the stretch run now, but I don't want to go down these and break them down, but it was, I love trade deadline day for Major League Baseball because on average, it's usually the most active out of the four major sports. So it was a good day. It was exciting.
So I agree with that. I think the Juan Soto move overshadowed the day. I keep thinking about that lineup and how that lineup's going to look when you have Juan Soto, you have Manny Machado, and you have Fernando Tatis Jr. And like I don't know how you're going to line them up, if it's going to be your 1, 2, 3 because Soto only bats 2. If it's whatever it's going to 2, 3, 4, however you want to make that look. But that, oh my Lord, I can't imagine facing that lineup night in and night out.
Their top 5 is going to be very good. They're going to get Jackson Profar lead off. I would assume Soto's going to hit 2, Tatis Jr. is going to hit 3, and Machado hit 4. And they'll probably put Jake Cronenworth behind Machado at 5 would be my guess. They'll put Bell 5, and they'll probably put Cronenworth 6. And you're going to have like Jorge Alfaro, who, ever since leaving here, he's been hitting pretty decent in San Diego. I mean, it's a tough top 7, man. I mean, it's every bit as good, if not better than the Dodgers lineup now. So it's going to be really interesting. It's the biggest trade of a superstar in a long time. I mean, I know we had the Mookie Betts and, even Manny Machado a couple years ago, Scherzer, Trey Turner, all those guys. But this is Juan Soto. I mean, he's, for if you like him or not, his level and what he is to the game he's a different level than all those guys. And a lot of those guys were on expiring contracts, so they weren't that surprising. The Padres went out and, got by far the best player available and one of the, if not the best hitters in baseball. And they have him under control for the next 2.5 years, which coincides with Machado's contract, and they've already extended Tatis. So kudos to their GM, man. I don't even know what else to say.
I felt like it wasn't even that big of a haul.
It was. They gave up their 4 top prospects, and 4 of those, or 3 of the 4, are in the top 50 in the MLB ranking. So, Washington obviously for as happy as you could be about losing Juan Soto, they got a lot of prospects back that they can build around. But I say it all the time, especially in baseball, prospects are nothing more than potential. They're not a sure thing. You went out and got Juan Soto, who is, however you want to slice it by whatever metric you want to use. He's a top 5 player in baseball. They're all in, and it's, if I'm a Padres fan, I'm about as happy as you can be. And that's not even including the fact that they got Josh Hader the day before. So.
Yep, that's what I was just going to mention. Yeah. Like, they got the best pitcher I didn't even know was on the market.
No one did.
Like, I didn't know that was going to be a thing. I thought the Brewers were going to try to compete, for a championship this year, and it almost feels like they were just like, yeah, we're not quite there yet. I thought they were a couple pieces. I still thought the Brewers were a couple pieces away going into the season. I thought the Brewers were going to be one of those teams at the end that were going to be contending for a World Series. But making that move, it just seems like you're not seriously trying to contend this upcoming season. If you're the Padres, though, you gotta 100% be all in for this upcoming season, and I would say that they would now be my favorite to win the World Series.
The Padres, you're talking about the Padres. I don't know if I make them the favorite, but they're up there with the Dodgers. I don't know if I make them the favorite over the Dodgers, but they're right up there with them now. I didn't think any team had a roster that could compete with them.
I still like LA's and New York's pitching better than I do the Padres. Obviously, Hader's a huge 100%. Piece to have in the back. San Diego's closer wasn't bad. I mean, so he went to Milwaukee. So all Milwaukee really did there was save money and gain control. I think Milwaukee is one of those teams that has a very good roster right now, but they're kind of stuck in limbo because they're a small market team. They're not going to dabble with the luxury tax. They're not going to go anywhere near it. So they're kind of like Oakland on steroids. They have a budget. They stay on it. Josh Hader was going to cost them a lot of money, and Josh Hader was going to get a lot of money from somebody. So I think they made a move that they got a closer back they have control with. He's not Josh Hader, but he'll do for what they need him to do. He still has 29 saves this year. So, I think Milwaukee's okay. I think Milwaukee's still within the division. But even if they kept Josh Hader, they weren't better. They're not better than San Diego. They're not better than the Dodgers. They're not better than the Mets. And I don't think they're better than Atlanta either. So,
I don't disagree with you, but when their top two win pitchers, and then you got Josh Hader in the bullpen, you got a shot.
You have a shot, but their biggest issue is hitting. Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff is a great 1-2 punch to have. Great 1-2 punch to have. But at some point, you got to score runs. So, as great as Corbin Burns has been for the last 18 months, he's going to go up against somebody else's number one. Like if he's facing the Dodgers, you're getting Walker Buehler. So I mean that's almost a push. And then who you betting on? You betting on Milwaukee's lineup, or you betting on the Dodgers lineup? So if you're going against the Mets, you're getting DeGrom, who looked great last night. So again, I think Milwaukee will definitely make the playoffs, and it's going to be tough from there.
Who do you think had a really good deadline that wasn't named San Diego?
Minnesota had a great deadline. Under the radar. They stole Lopez from Baltimore for almost nothing. They got Trevor Mailey from Cincinnati, who is another solid starting pitcher. Cincinnati again just blowing it up, man. I don't understand. Like they're almost as bad as Pittsburgh. Every other year they get a couple good people and they just blow it up. And they just blow it up and they go, we're rebuilding.
They're worse now.
Yeah,
they're worse than Pittsburgh.
They traded Luis Castillo to Seattle. That was a big get. Seattle, Seattle's played really well the last 2 months, and they went and got him, and he went into Yankee Stadium today and beat Garrett Cole. So, but Minnesota Twins is my answer for sure.
My answer would be the Astros. I think the Astros getting Trey and getting Vasquez from Boston. I think those are going to be two pieces that really help them down the road. And I think they were already in the thick of it before, but that just adds on to that Houston team. And I think at this point, it seems like we're primed for a New York Yankees, Houston Astros, ALCS for one of the ages. So I think Houston is in a great position.
Christian Vasquez came out of nowhere. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago for the All-Star show. I mean, he was right there to try to make the team. Had a breakout year this year, and Boston turned around and traded him. And that was surprising to me too, because catcher was kind of the one spot that Houston had a little bit of a hole in, and now they don't. And they picked up, like you said, Trey Mancini. If you're not familiar with his story, look it up and read up on him a little bit. He's going to be another great bat to have in that lineup. And then the sneaky move it wasn't the big name move out of the two of them. They also got Will Smith from Atlanta as another back end bullpen piece, which is another very, very solid move. Will Smith was in Atlanta's World Series run last year, so Houston's gearing up. I mean, I hate them, but
I'm not saying he's
to Cottrell's point, but it's going to be
good.
Astros, Yankees, all signs point to that, and that's going to be a barn burner.
But I'm not saying this team's going to make the World Series. I'm not saying this team's going to make a deep run in the playoffs. But I think a team that had one of the best trade lines, and you can call me a homer, is the Philadelphia Phillies. The Philadelphia Phillies went into this trade line needing three things. They needed an everyday center fielder. They got one. They needed an extra starting pitcher in their pitching staff. They got one. And listen, if he likes it here, which I think he will, all signs point to he will, and we re-sign him, you get the Thor of old next year. That's a great trade. And then you get relief help. You get a bullpen help. You get rid of Jerry's Familia and Odubel Herrera. Phillies fans were going ecstatic just knowing those two guys were gone. I think the Phillies did everything right this trade deadline.
I was very happy with yesterday. I know a lot of people were asking me today on different pages. I got a bunch of texts. I think a lot of people expected me to be down on these moves, and I'm not at all. I'm very optimistic about all three of them, to be quite honest. Dave Robertson, we signed him 2 years ago because we knew what he was, and unfortunately he got hurt. Right at the beginning of the season when we signed him.
Paid him for 2 years to play nothing.
He stole $30 million from us, but it's not my money, so it's not my problem. But he's having a great year. He's back, and I'll tell you this, man. It's crazy. Gene kind of hit on it. These moves were good because we got good players back and they made the team better, but they also allowed us to get rid of the two people that I think everybody wanted gone. So it was addition by subtraction on top of everything else. You're going to get Gene Segura back this week. Bryce Harper's probably about 3 weeks out. It's a different looking team now. And I'll tell you this, I'll go into the seventh inning. This is the most comfortable and confident I felt with the bullpen. I'm not kidding you, in the last 8 or 9 years. I will take our chances with Robertson, Alvarado, Brad Hand as the lefty specialist, and Sir Anthony on the back end. You get a game to the 6th or 7th inning with a lead, we should win the majority of them now. And they're going to need them all. With San Diego, I don't think there's any shot San Diego doesn't make the playoffs now. And Atlanta, I think Atlanta, me and Gene disagree a little bit on this, but I think Atlanta's a shoo-in as well. Atlanta's a very good baseball team. So,
I'm not saying that they're not a good baseball team. I just don't think they're a shoo-in right now. I don't think they did amazing things. I think the Phillies had a better deadline than them. And I think that it's not as hard as you think it might be to make up 6 games.
I'm not saying that, but again, we're 6 games behind them. They're only 3 out of first place. They might win the division. So, everybody, is as high on the Mets as we are. They had an 8 or 9 game lead, a month and a half ago, and it's down to 3.
Division.
I'm not saying they're going to. I'm saying they
DeGrom's back. He looked great the other night.
They lost. It was a typical.
It wasn't his fault.
My point is, it was a typical DeGrom start. There's a reason the dude won the Cy Young a couple years ago and only won like 8 games because that's what they do. When he pitches, they don't hit. They went into Washington and played a team that just lost their only 2 decent, let alone great hitters, in Josh Bell and Juan Soto, and they went in and got smoked. That's what they do. But listen, there is no bigger fan of Jacob DeGrom than some Mets fans are. They're going to be tough. I don't want to play them. They're going to be there. They're going
to. Bill's frozen. Okay, we'll get him back. No, but I want to address the comment real quick by Godfrey. Godfrey said, I'm not sure Thor will ever be what he was. He's serviceable.
False.
I disagree completely. Most times after Tommy John, it takes about 1.5 years, 2 years for your arm strength to rebuild to where it was. This is his first season back from Tommy John.
He on top of that, he had it kind of late last year. So he was actually ahead of schedule when he came back this year. And listen, it's not like he went from 98 to 90.
84. He's 93.
Yeah. He's still sitting 93, 94. Granted, 4 miles per hour is a big difference in Major League Baseball. So please, I'm not minimalizing that at all. But Gene's 100% right. Some guys come back and they throw harder right out of the gate. Most times it's your second season back when you get your arm and your shoulder completely back to where it was.
And it almost makes it like it's a brand new elbow, like a brand new shoulder. Yeah. It almost makes it like Jacob deGrom came back throwing harder.
Yeah. What we need to happen there is exactly what you said earlier. We need him to come here, be happy to be back on the East Coast, back in the NL East. There is obviously some real love-hate tension between him and the Mets fans. I don't know if anybody was on Twitter today, but it was great. He's excited to be here. Well, did you see the other one with the blogger from New York?
Yeah.
That said, come to Citi Field August 12th to 14th, and we'll kick your ass. And he asked the guy, he's like, should I bring your ex-wife or should I leave him at home? He does not care. So that is. I think he's gonna like it here. I think he's gonna be happy here, and the fans are gonna love him. The excitement over getting him already is palpable. So you hope he loves it here. You hope he pitches well, and hopefully we can lock him down. And I would love to go into next year with I'm sitting there with Nola, Wheeler, and a year healthier Noah as our top three, and then we're starting to talk about really good things.
Facts. You got Wheeler, Syndergaard, and Nola. And Nola's pitching well this year, man. He's pitching well.
Yeah. His ERA sitting low 3. I think he's 500 record-wise, but I know for a fact he's lost 2 or 3 games where he's given up like 2 runs. When we were in our nobody on the team could hit the ball phase. And Zach Wheeler's just been a stud. So
it's like Nicholas Reyes knew we were talking about baseball, and he just hopped in. What's up, Nick? How you feeling, bud? He said he does not care, but he made sure he doesn't pitch against them again. Bro, I promise you, Thor's not worried about pitching against the Mets.
I don't buy that for a second at all.
He said Thor fears the Mets. Listen, from a New Yorker, I would expect you to say that. I know you're a Yankees guy, but I'd expect you to say that. I don't think Thor fears anyone.
I'll say this too. The Mets fans, like, you've had a good season. You have a very good squad. But at the end of the day, too, you guys have to realize something. You haven't won shit in 35 years. Like, please keep that in the front of your mind and the focus of all these conversations. You haven't won anything. You haven't won anything yet this year. So, like, pumping the brakes with all this, we're this, we're that. No,
He's a Yankees fan.
Yeah. Like, come on. Like, you're not there yet. And, and however you want to slice it, you're going to have to beat some combination of the Braves, Dodgers, and Padres to get to the World Series. You're going to have to beat 2 of them. So I wouldn't be that I wouldn't be overly confident. Sorry.
All right. Well, we got to move on. A lot of baseball talk. Control, any final thoughts? I feel like me and Bill kind of talked a little bit too much there.
No, you guys are excited because your team actually makes deals during the deadline.
I knew your team wasn't going to do anything.
I mean, of course, but as a Clevelander, I just knew the deadline would be super boring besides the big names moving. So I get it. You guys are excited. I think the additions that you got were solid. You know how high I've been on Thor. So I fully expect him to come back, be healthy. And eventually I think he could, if he gets back to the Thor of old, he could even be the number 2 in your rotation.
I will say this. Cleveland came out of nowhere at the very, very end, and they started getting included about teams that were calling about Soto.
Yeah.
So I knew
it wasn't real, though.
I started to get a little excited for Cottrell. I was like, Guardians might pull off the heist of the century here. But that didn't happen. I'm going to give you one more.
They traded him 2 years later, though.
Yeah, they weren't resigning him. But, I mean, you can't blame him.
I got one more baseball point, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's one under-the-radar trade that's not getting a lot of hype, and I gave this to you last year, and I was spot on last year. I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm telling you, this guy is going to be the same thing this year. Frankie Montas going to the Yankees is a significant trade. That kid is solid. He's a very good pitcher. He's pitched on some really bad Oakland A's teams the last couple of years. He is going to help that rotation tremendously. He'll probably be the number 3 starter on that team. He's a very, very good pitcher. This is very similar to Jorge Soler, which I told everybody was a very under-the-radar, great move for Atlanta last year. And then he just went into the playoffs and World Series and just raked. Frankie Montas, in my opinion, is that guy this year. So watch out for him.
I hope not. I have a really I gave somebody a future bet on the Yankees because I was so confident they wouldn't win with their pitching staff. So I'm hoping not because I'm withholding a future bet right now.
Yeah.
But one last baseball point I want to bring up is if you're not watching The Captain, I'm not trying to be like I'm not plugged for ESPN Plus, but if you're not watching The Captain, you need to watch that series. You could skip episode 1; it stinks, but episode 2, 3, and 4 are incredible.
I would only tell you.
If you're a Yankees fan and you want to know about Derek Jeter growing up and all that, but the juicy stuff, 2, 3, 4 is incredible.
I was just going to say, if you're not super familiar with him or where he's from or how he grew up, I would tell you to watch one. I would tell you to watch one simply because, too, it does kind of it illustrates, how crazy his journey really was to go from, a Midwest kid and, being recruited. I mean, he was committed to Michigan actually. And then getting drafted kind of unexpectedly. And, it's a great story. I mean, again, I am by no means a Yankees fan or whatsoever, other than, respecting obviously what they've done and the all-time greats that have played there. But it's just as good as the Tom Brady one. I wouldn't say it's better than Michael's just because there was so much stuff in that one that nobody had ever seen before. And it was older, it was based off older stuff.
It's not over.
But it's not over. Yes. But I'm telling you, I'm just illustrating that it's in that league. It's that good. I
think it's as good. Like so far, I would put it right on par with what Jordan's was. And that might sound nuts, but even me being a huge baseball fan back then, I didn't know the extent of the Jeter A-Rod situation. And I feel like if you watch this, you'll kind of feel it and hear it through his perspective. And then when we all watched that Yankees team, when they first got A-Rod and everyone was like, they're going to run through the American League. And then you see that first month of the season and how it took, how bad Jeter started and how Yankee fans were booing him and calling for Alex Rodriguez to play shortstop. And then the Alex Rodriguez and I don't want to give too much of it away, but like it's a great TV series.
It's well done. It's very well done.
Yeah. And by the way, I've always been on Jeter as a very overrated shortstop, but I'm definitely Team Jeter over Team A-Rod as far as whose side I would take, who I agreed with more. And you heard both sides of the story there, so you'll really it'll break itself down.
I mean, both points are accurate. I mean, it's definitely, I think certain, I don't want to give away specifics, but certain things that A-Rod came in and did, knowing damn well it was Derek Jeter's team. I mean, obviously the name of the show is The Captain. He was the captain of that team. Again, I don't want to give anything away. Just watch it. And he is overrated. So both things can be true.
All right. Well, I can't wait to get in football, man. Football season is just right around the corner. And
we're a month out, not even a month out, baby. We're in August.
For preseason starting. Like this Sunday, if you're not doing anything this Sunday, come visit the ECG tent. Dante and the crew will be down there. I'll be down there. Come hang out with us at Eagles training camp. Sunday night, I'll be there as early as I possibly can. I think they're getting down there at noon, if I'm not mistaken. But they're going to do a live event from there. It'll be a lot of fun. So come down, hang out with us. And there might even be some people that are chirpy. I doubt that they'll come, but I've read a lot of stuff on Twitter, and I guarantee you Twitter fingers don't turn to trigger fingers to take the old montage. But we got a defensive lineman list, and I can't wait to get into it. At first, we talked about this. We're like, we'll just do edge rushers because there's so many great edge rushers. And then we're like, let's just do the like we did last year. Let's do the entire defensive line with edge rushers. The reason I agreed with Cottrell. Cottrell's like, let's just do the whole D line because the defensive tackle position is like 4 really good tackles. And then there's a bunch of edge rushers that are going to overwhelm that list. So let's get into our top 10 defensive linemen. You'll see the list up there shortly. You got me, Bill, Cottrell. We're going to go in a roundabout order. My number 10 is one of my 2 defensive tackles I have on the list. from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cameron Hayward is my number 10. Now, there's not many people, interior defensive linemen, that are going to make this list, but Cam Hayward is a guy that wreaks havoc. Guy stops to run. He gets after the quarterback. He's a leader on the defensive side of the ball for Pittsburgh. And he's a perfect complement to what TJ Watt does on the outside, which you'll probably hear his name somewhere in here. Oh, he's got a fix him. I like it. I appreciate it. Number 10 for you, Bill.
I got another Cam, but not the Hayward type. I got Cam Jordan from New Orleans. Getting a little bit up there in age, but really not slowing down so much production-wise. Super smart player. Is a staple in the middle of that New Orleans defense. He allows them to, do a lot of different things. Very good against the run. Very instinctive against the pass. Wouldn't call him necessarily, the best athlete, maybe, but he's a monster, and he just keeps doing it. Like I said, everybody's waiting for a couple of these guys that we're probably going to see on this list to fall off an edge. And we mentioned it with the linebackers last week, like with Bobby Wagner and a couple other guys, and they're not doing it. They just keep playing and keep balling out. So I opened my list with Cam Jordan from NOLA.
And I'll open my list with a guy who I didn't like too much in college.
You got him a little low, but I'll talk about that. Cottrell, your number 10, lead into your number 9.
I didn't like in college. That's Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary, former Michigan Wolverine. But I really liked what he did in Green Bay last year. I think he's on a team that it's going to hurt not having Za'Darius on the other side of him, but I think Rashawn Gary is really starting to play into that NFL body of his. And I think, coming out of Michigan and even going into Michigan, he was just 5-star recruit, great kid, didn't quite play up to his potential, I think, at Michigan, because I thought he was just going to be a special talent, but we're really starting to see that out of him. I think that Packers team is starting to really get the most out of him. My number 9 is a guy that Bill just mentioned, that 10. That's Cam Jordan of the New Orleans Saints. I think he's going to be, older this upcoming season, and it's about time for him to fall off that cliff. But the production that he keeps having in this New Orleans Saints system, it's just been too much for me to say that he's quite there yet. So Cam Jordan's my number 9.
I got Jordan higher than both of you guys by a lot. Not by a lot, but
number 9 for me. I got a guy on the opposite side of the cliff. This guy had a breakout year last year. He's still probably on the ascend, to be honest. I got Max Crosby from the Las Vegas Raiders. Almost said Oakland. Another guy, again, I think a lot of people kind of saw this coming last year. Maybe not to the extent that it did, but he put all the pieces together and figured it out finally. He was a menace last year. Made the Pro Bowl, kind of really anchored that Raiders defense last year. That wasn't super impressive for the most part. He was the brightest spot on the defense for sure. Gene always says, like, I'm the prove me guy or the prove it guy, and it's kind of the reason I have him number 9. Definitely wanted to put him on the list. Wasn't sure where I was going to put him, but I need to see it for a couple years in a row before I move him up any higher, because obviously some of the names we're about to see here on everybody's list are guys that have been doing it for a really long time and are still doing it at a high level. But I wanted to give Max Crosby his due and give him his respect. Kid had a hell of a year. I hope he has another great year this year. So I have him number 9.
I'm so shocked to see your list right now. I love not seeing them because, like, I want to see who you guys have higher. I know that both guys, Cam Jordan and Max Crosby, you'll see not way higher, but higher on my list. My number 9 is Super Bowl champion, and I think he will be back-to-back Super Bowl champion, Von Miller. Von Miller goes from the Rams to the Buffalo Bills. Von Miller, I think I think Buffalo wins Super Bowl this year. I love Von Miller. I think he's a perfect fit for that Buffalo defense. They got the secondary there. I think that he'll fit in perfectly in Buffalo. My number 8, this guy, he does everything well except stop the run.
I already know who this is.
I'm kidding when I say this. This is the number 1 PFF against the run edge rusher in the NFL for the last 2 full seasons that he played. Last season, he only played 7 games, so he didn't make it that high on my list. But Khalil Mack Truck is my number 8. Khalil Mack is, even missing a ton of last year, he's still super high on my list. He's going to go to a Chargers team where he's going to be opposite of Joey Bosa, and I don't know who you double. I don't know how you double, because those two guys, and if you're worried about 2 edge rushers stopping the run, I promise you don't have to worry about it with those two. Khalil Mack had a 92.7 grade stopping the run. Number 1 in the NFL, 2019 and 2020.
My number 8 is a guy that we've already talked about, Mr. Cameron Hayward from the Pittsburgh Steelers. You want to know who he is? Everybody always talks about the Steelers being, a very close-knit, tight team, a family team, owned by the Rooneys forever. This guy is the leader of the defense. TJ Watt is maybe the more popular name right now. This guy's been there for 10 years now, continues to do it at an elite level. He is the guy. If you heard anything about, Ben Roethlisberger's comments last week about the way, new age players are, the guy that everybody wanted to hear from was TJ Watt, was Cameron Hayward. And Hayward spoke his mind and said what he wanted to. He is the undoubted, unquestioned leader of that entire football team. And he does it, in and out of the locker room, on and off the field. He's, not saying that any team, wouldn't want any of the guys on this list, but I promise you, if you went to a defensive coordinator on any team and said, I can give you Cameron Hayward for 10 years with what he does, not only on the field, but in leadership aspects and stuff like that, everybody would take him. You wouldn't get one no. The dude's a stud. I hate that he plays for the Steelers because I hate Pittsburgh. But Cottrell definitely agrees with that. I love the dude. He's one of those dudes from another team that you just kind of always admire because he does everything right. And he's a damn good football player. Great against the pass, disruptions, deflections, and he's great against the run. So Cameron Hayward, number 8 for me.
So I just want to make a comment on there because you guys both hate the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are very, very slowly becoming my favorite team in the AFC. One of my favorite teams in the AFC. I think they do so many things the right way. I'll make mention to Brian Flores, bringing him in as a defensive specialist. I'll make reference to Mike Tomlin's constant winning. I think they made a great move by bringing in Mitch Trubisky. I think getting him away from Matt Nagy and putting him in a different system with a different opportunity. I think Mitch Trubisky is going to show a lot of. I don't think Kenny Pickett starts a game for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. I think you go the entire year with Mitch Trubisky as your starting quarterback, and I think they win a ton of games. I think Mitch is a lot better than most people think he is. And I think a year with Brian Dable in Buffalo did him well, working with Josh Allen and really being able to develop. So I just wanted to mention that real quick because we were talking about the Steelers, because I kind of root for them now. I love the Miles Jack move, Cameron Hayward, TJ Watt. Like it's hard not to like some of those guys.
I don't disagree.
No, I don't either. And I'll say this. The reason you have that is we bring this up a lot about a lot of things we want to see change, not to get super off topic, but a lot of things we want to see change in the NFL. And we all agree there's a lot of really scumbag owners in the NFL. That organization is not one of them. They've been owned by the Rooney family forever. And to their credit, they are a culture team. If you're going to come in here and not do this and not do that and not act a certain way, then we're not interested in bringing you here. Like them playing in a black and gold, like it means something to them. And that's why you get guys like a Cameron Hayward, other than obviously, I mean, he had a little hiccup with certain people, but I mean, he turned and he was gone. I mean, Le'Veon Bell, bye. They're team guys, man. It's a culture. And Gino, I'm glad you brought up Mike Tomlin. You've seen how loyal they've been to him. You've had fans for them call for his head when he's gone. The dude's never had a losing season. Like, it's crazy. And they stay loyal to him. He's their guy, and they love the way he runs the team. And he also enforces that. You ever want to see, it's weird to say, but you ever want to see like a motivational press conference after a loss? Go watch a Mike Tomlin press conference. He pulls no punches, but like if you play for that guy, you hear him talk, like he's one of those guys you'd run through a wall for. I like Mike Tomlin again. I just don't like the Steelers because they're our natural rival because they're in PA. I don't really have anything bad thing to say about them other than I just don't like them. It's selfish.
Control doesn't like them because the Browns beat them
Yeah.
once in like 50 years. I get it. Control number 8, number 7.
I mean, we beat them in the playoffs, so gave them
Fair
their last playoff game at Heinz Field. They lost to us, so they have to live with that for the rest of their lives. Real quick, what I'll say about Mike Tomlin, though, if you want to see a good interview, Ryan Clark, Channing Crowder, and Fred Taylor, those guys do the pivot. They did one with Mike Tomlin, and it was incredible. So Mike Tomlin, great dude. I like what the Steelers do in their front office, but them as an organization, I'm never going to say anything good about them. So there's that. My number 8, though, moving on. A team that's actually in the AFC North as well. That's going to be the defensive end, Cincinnati Bengals, Trey Hendrickson. He had a really good season last year, and I really wasn't expecting it. Him not being on that New Orleans team and not having Cam Jordan on the opposite end, I thought that was really going to, show in his production, but that wasn't the case. He was the number 1 guy in Cincinnati, and he was out there making plays. He had 3.5 sacks in the playoffs, 14 sacks during the season. And I was a guy who really anchored down that defensive line for them. And I fully expect him to have a better year this upcoming season. My number 7 is a guy that Gene's already mentioned, and that is Khalil Mack. I think Khalil Mack going over to the Los Angeles Chargers is going to be great for him. Another guy who is at a point where he could potentially fall off that cliff, but I think that defense is just so good. He's going to be so rejuvenated, and his job's going to be so easy that he's going to have the production to be a top 10 defensive lineman in this league this upcoming season. So I got Khalil Mack, number 7.
Number 7 for me is also a guy we already talked about. I think it's a guy that's universally liked around the NFL. And I think I don't want to say rejuvenated his career last year. I just think he was banged up for 2 years in a row. I think people kind of forgot about him a little bit. Then he went to the Rams and won a Super Bowl. Number 7 for me is Von Miller. People forget not too long ago, as a defensive end, he won the MVP of a Super Bowl and carried Peyton Manning's gimp ass to a Super Bowl trophy. Dude's a stud. I love that he went to Buffalo. Not to give too much away, I might have the same, prediction as another co-host of this show in regards to a Super Bowl. I think he makes a very good defense even better. He still has elite speed off the edge, can run. He's nowhere near as bad against the run as people think he is. And another guy, super smart, great teammate, great locker room guy. And he likes Campbell's soup. Like, how can you not like him? So, number 7 for me is Von Miller.
Loving it. All right, so I got number 7 and 6. My number 7 is, Control always gives me shit for this team. He always thinks I'm hating on him. Always thinks I don't give him their credit. But I think the leader of this team is Cameron Jordan. My number 7 is Cameron Jordan of the New Orleans Saints. I think he is a bull rusher. That guy is sometimes unblockable. I watched him versus the Falcons game in New Orleans, and the Falcons got up early in that game. It was a game that the Saints came all the way back, and this guy was unblockable. You can't stop him. And he's strong, he's fast, he's elusive, he stops the run. And you'll notice with a lot of the guys that I have higher up on my list, they're not just edge rushers. They're not just third down edge rushers. They are 3-down linemen that can stop the run, that can get at the quarterback, and that can contain the edge. Cameron Jordan is definitely one of those guys. Now, my number 6, this might be a little low. I don't know. You guys might not have on your list. My number 6 is Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa of the Chargers. I think that combination of Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack could potentially wreak so much havoc in that AFC West. With Carr, Mahomes, and Russell Wilson all trying to figure out how to get away from those two guys, you're going to have a quick passing scheme. If you have a deep threat on your fantasy team, you might want to sit them the week they're going against the Chargers, because that quarterback is not going to have time to get the ball downfield. Start your possession receivers. Start your Hunter Renfros. But maybe not your deep threats. Maybe not your Jujus. No one will sit them on the bench that week, because Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack are both going to get at your quarterback, and they're both going to keep that quarterback in the pocket from extending the plays.
My number 6 is as well Mr. Joey Bosa. I didn't know where to slot him and Khalil Mack. I'm going to foreshadow a little bit here, but I had them. I had to figure out a way to separate them, and I think to Gene's point earlier, I think Joey is the one that's probably going to draw the majority of the double teams, at least to start the year. But he's an animal. He's fast. Everybody saw what he did in college. Me specifically, Cottrell can attest to it. He's on the better end of it. Whatever. But the same thing as Khalil Mack. He's got to stay healthy. But to everything Gene just said, 100% accurate. If these two guys stay on the field all year, I wouldn't want to be offensive tackles in the AFC West. I just wouldn't. You guys are going to end up on some pretty bad game film probably. They're going to be monsters. And to Gene's point earlier as well, you can't double both of them. So it's going to be pick your poison. But the dude has everything. Dude's got great moves off the line, quick burst, very fast, high motor, everything you want to see in an elite pass rusher. We're getting the top 6 guys on the planet right now. So Joey Bosa, number 6 for me.
My number 6, we're going to have the Bosa sweep, but I'm going to have his brother. I got Nick here. Coming in at number 6 for me. I think that Nick's going to have an incredible season playing for that San Francisco 49ers defense. He's got Eric Armstead next to him, and I think another year under his belt. Last season he was fully healthy. I think he's going to be even healthier this upcoming season. And I think that San Francisco 49ers team they're in a position where they can be really special. And I think that, regardless of what you think about Trey Lance, he has the potential to take that team to the next level. And I think in turn, that's going to really help that San Francisco 49ers defense as well. My number 5, moving on, is Nick Bosa's brother, Joey. Like you guys said, he's going to really benefit from being on that Chargers defense, being on the opposite side of Khalil Mack, and his job's going to get so much easier. And the thing with Joey Bosa is that he likes to stop the run, just like Khalil Mack does on the other side. So I think these two are going to have phenomenal years, and I think it could easily be, Joey being at 7 and Khalil being at 5. But I think Joey Bosa is just going to have the slightly better year than his counterpart and his little brother. So give me Joey Bosa at 5.
My number 5, I pretty much gave this away. I'm going to slightly disagree with both you guys. I'm going to put Khalil Mack at number 5. I think when he's right and he's healthy, there's very few, if any, people in the league that are better at what he does. I think he's had 2 bad luck years in a row. I'll hedge my bet and say that he stays healthy this year. And like I said, I think in the beginning of the year, I'm not saying it stays this way through the whole season. I think Joey gets the majority of the double teams early in the year anyway. And I think Khalil Mack just eats. I think he eats and he keeps eating until they have to figure out and do something else and switch it up in scheme-wise. Contrary to a certain Birds Deep host that doesn't think he likes to play against the run, he does. I won't mention anybody, Matt Govry. He's very good. But I love Khalil Mack. Dude's been a monster for a couple years now. And again, equally as good against the pass as the rush. I think he benefits from playing next to Joey Bosa at the beginning of the year. And I think he puts up big numbers this year. I think they both do. But I think Khalil Mack comes out of the gates hot this year. So he's number 5 for me.
I'm about to say something controversial. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Do you guys not feel like some of these players, some of these superstar players, suddenly have their healthy season when they're playing for a contender? I'm not trying. I'm not saying the guy wasn't hurt. I think every guy in the NFL is hurt. I think everybody's hurt. I just think that when you're 3-8, you're a little bit more hurt. Maybe you can't.
That's true.
Maybe you're not wasting your health this week.
I mean, to be honest, though, I don't know if I'd go out there and if I'm not 100%, I don't know if I go out there and play for Matt Nagy or a Chuck Pagano in past seasons either. So
me and you will disagree there. He's getting paid $20 million to play for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, but I'm not. If I got something that doesn't feel right, and I don't think I can go out there and perform, I'm not going to go out there and potentially harm my future, especially for a guy like Khalil Mack, who is getting older. Like, he's got to be smart in these kinds of situations. And if your team's not winning, there's no need for you to be out there.
I'll bet you this year he fights through a little bit more injury.
I mean, you know my answer on this. We've talked about it before with other players, have it be Kyler. We've discussed it a couple other times. Gene's a little bit old school like I am. If you're hurt, you can play. If you're injured, you're not. I'm an old school. I'm traditionalist that way. I'm not going to go jump off the ledge with Gene on that one, but there's no doubt in my mind it definitely happens with certain players.
100%.
And to some degree, to Cottrell's point, I mean, again, I believe what I believe, and I would do what I would do, and I feel the way I feel. But these guys do have it. They don't have an infinite shelf life. Like they have an expiration date playing, at an elite level. I can't tell them, to go. Their body at that point, it really is like it's an investment for them. So, but I would also always give the nod of saying if you're comparing two players and the one dude is a gamer and hard-nosed and plays through injuries and the other guy isn't, and they're equivalent, then they'd give me the tough guy all the time. I'll go to war with somebody like that.
All right, well, let me get into my number 5 because you guys both used them up early. Actually, wait a minute. Control doesn't have them yet. So maybe Control has them as high as I do. Or maybe he doesn't have them on his list. Maybe I'm just an idiot. My number 5 is Max Crosby. I watched Max Crosby versus the Chargers the last game of last year, and he was unblockable. Every play he was in the backfield. Once again, Max Crosby gets after the quarterback. Max Crosby stops the run. Max Crosby is headed into the prime of his career. And as much as Bill is a proven host, I'm a projections host. And my projection this year, hey, listen, it's the truth. Bill has to prove it. I get the projections. I'm projecting Max Crosby to be a top 5 defensive lineman this year. After the production I watched at the end of last year, even in the Cincinnati game, Max Crosby was unblockable. The guy's just, it looks like something completely clicked for him, and he's gotten better and better and progressed. And I think he's walking in to a very good Raiders team right now, and he's going to help contribute and get after the quarterback as much as possible. So my number 5 is Max Crosby.
I left the door open for Max, though. I said,
I know you did.
I gave him his due. I just said I'm going to put him on the list. If he gives me another year like he did last year, he'll be way higher on this next year. So I don't want Max to see this.
I just want to see if Cottrell has him, because he only has one spot for him, because there's 3 guys that are 100% going to be there. So he's going to have to be in that 4th spot. But
you're not wrong.
So my number 4 is the better Bosa, Nick Bosa. Nick is a San Francisco 49er, and I'll tell you, I think the difference between Nick and Joey is Nick's just a little quicker and I feel like he's a little stronger. I think Nick's the better Bosa. I think Nick's going to get after your quarterback a little bit better, and he's an amazing run stopper at the defensive end position. Nick Bosa gives you everything that you need, and I think this 49ers team, and you'll hear this from me again, and I know it's bold. You got your Brady's, you got the Rams. I think this 49ers team is your NFC representative for the Super Bowl this year. And I think it's led defensively by Nick Bosa.
That's a tad bold. I'll give you that one. Buffalo's not that bold. San Fran, that's a little bold.
Trey Lance getting MVP votes, man. You'll see.
I'm not saying I disagree. We had the Trey Lance conversation already. I think it's gonna be an up and down year, but we'll get into that later.
It's fair.
Number 4, I also have Nick Bosa from San Francisco, and I kind of agree with everything he just said. Gene just said. I think he's the better Bosa, probably not by a lot, but I think he's the better Bosa. I think he's a little bit better against the run than Joey is, and to Gene's point, I think he's the more physical of the two Bosas. He can still get you with the speed and and all the fancy swim moves and all that stuff. He's also a guy that can just bull rush you off the edge and kind of put you on your ass too if he wants to. That's why I like him a little bit more. That's why I'm a little bit higher. And that San Francisco defense is gonna be legit again. Their front 7 is really good. So I think Nick Bosa has another monster year. Another guy though, the thing he shares with his brother, he gets banged up a little bit, a little too easily for me. Might be an Ohio State thing, I don't know. But I will go Nick Bosa, number 4. He's a stud. I'll give him his due, even though he's a Buckeye.
I just noticed something. I don't want to point it out yet. I feel like Cottrell's number 4 is the most interesting number 4 you can run into.
Yeah, because he doesn't. If it is Max, I get it, and I wouldn't disagree.
He doesn't have Vaughn on his list.
I was just gonna say then he's left somebody off. Then
it's. I think it's Von Miller. I think he left Max off. That's the guess. What are you guessing?
That's fine with me because that gets me off the hook completely. I at least put the guy on his list. Cottrell said go kick rocks here, flash in the pan. So I'm good. I hope it's Von Miller.
You know what? You know what's going to be funny? You guys are going to be even more on your seats for my number 2, because my number 4 is my number 4 is about to knock your socks off.
We already talked about who your number 2 is. So
my number 4 is about to knock your socks off. My number 4.
This is controversial.
Is the reigning defensive player of the year, TJ Watt.
Gene, did we call this or not?
We called it yesterday. I didn't say 4. I didn't
say 4 either. I said he's going to be 3.
The thing with TJ Watt, and you guys will see. You guys already know one of the guys who's going to be ahead. One of the guys who I think is going to be ahead of him. But TJ Watt, incredible player. Can't take anything away from him. I gave him a little bit of slack last year because I didn't think that he would be production-wise as good as he was the year before with Bud Dupree. And then he went on one Defensive Player of the Year. And it's going to look like this is just hate because he's a Steeler, but I promise it's not what it is. And it's a projection thing. That's why I said, wait for my number 2 and you guys will see this. But I think TJ Watt is 100% going to be in the mix for Defensive Player of the Year once again, but I think he finishes 3rd in the race.
I don't know what you could say that would make me believe that he's not going to have another elite year and not be one of the top 3 defensive players in the league.
I think he's going to have another elite year. That's the thing. I just don't think it's going to compare to these.
But there's Dante. Why didn't you email me? I need an email to hear the TJ post. So TJ Watt was number 4. Come on, are you serious? I don't even know if I would let this on air.
Wait for number 3 though. Number 3 is going to surprise you.
I'm sorry, guys.
My number 3 is Myles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns. I think Myles is a better edge defender. I know TJ does more for that team, but I like what Myles does more. And I think if Myles plays a full season, I think you'll see that he'll be more productive. And I think he finishes potentially second in when it's all said and done, when it comes down to the votes. But he's just number 3 for me. That's why I said you guys are going to be hanging on for number 2.
Don't say he's just number 3.
That is wild. That is wild.
All right, so all right, I'm going to save that for later.
So
I know.
Don McPherson. Don McPherson. TJ at 4. Count the hot take clicks. The new hot take for the show is Cottrell Simpson.
It's tough, man. That's. I mean,
it's worse than Trout at 2.
It might be actually. That's a good discussion. We always recap everybody's list at the end, so I'm not going to get hung up on this for now. I'm going to go number 3 now that everybody is done, losing their minds in the audience right now. Number 3 for me is Myles Garrett as well. I think Myles Garrett is debatably the best athlete on this list. I don't think he's the best. He's amazing. There's so many things I could say about him. I'm not going to say anything bad about him because obviously, again, he's in elite territory. He's an elite company here. He's number 3. I think one of the things that he needs to work on, I think, is something that Cottrell mentioned. Though he's got to stay on the field. I think you're really splitting hairs when you get to some of these guys at the top.
We're losing Bill. That's Bill, right?
Not me.
I hear him.
Yeah. It's you. I'm Miles Garrett, number 3. I know he's Cottrell's boy. Plays for the Cleveland Browns. I actually like him. I just think there's 2 guys that are better, and that's no slight of him. Because again, I think the top three on my list anyway, not Cottrell's crazy list. The top 3 for me are elite, and I think they're a little bit better than everybody else I have on my list. That's the way I view them, and I think he's in that category. I think he's elite. I just think there's 2 guys that are better than him. But I would love to have him. I have nothing bad to say about him. He's a freak off the edge.
To be fair, though, I don't think that TJ Watt isn't one of those top 3 guys. I think talent-wise, TJ Watt is 100% one of those guys. My projections for next season just say otherwise. That's all. Just one season.
I get it, but if you would have told me that you're like, hey, I think TJ Watt's a little bit of an overachiever, and I just think he comes down. I think he comes down numbers-wise this year. I would at least even more understand that more than what you just said. That for a fact he's a top 3 talent guy-wise.
Yep.
And I just can't see him just not having a good year. The dude's a stud. But again, we'll get into that later. We got to let Gene go. But Myles Garrett, number 3 for me. I love the dude. He hit a quarterback in the head with his helmet. He gets bonus points for that from me.
All right.
So number 3 for me.
It's not even controversial at this point. Me and Bill have the same 3-2-1. I already know it. It's the same 3-2-1. My number 3 is Myles Garrett. My number 3 is defensive lineman for the Cleveland Browns. The guy stops the run. He gets at the quarterback. He's an absolute monster. I think that there's nothing bad to say about him. Myles Garrett's a beast, period. My number 2 is TJ Watt. TJ Watt's my number 2. TJ Watt is high motor, awesome, hardworking, gets after the quarterback, stops the run, gets the ball, creates turnovers. TJ Watt is just another superstar from the Watt family. So my number 2 is TJ Watt. Shally, take it away, because I need to get to Cottrell's number 2.
I'll be brief. Number 2 for me, TJ Watt, Pittsburgh Steelers. Elite in every skill set you need to be an edge rusher. Great hands, fast, high motor, high energy guy. Again, a great teammate. Cut from the same mold as JJ, just a little bit smaller, obviously. But a great human being by all accords. Glue guy for that team as well. Tough guy, plays through injuries. Literally, represents everything that it is to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. I think if the guy that I have number 1 and Gina's number 1 wasn't an NFL player, I think he would be number 1 on this list every year. But TJ Watt, number 2, I don't see any reason that he slows down or doesn't have a good year other than, he gets a catastrophic injury. So for me, number 2 is TJ Watt. And we'll go to Cottrell now and let us have fun.
So my number 2 is a guy that you both have already mentioned. It's a guy who I really think is going to be in a strong consideration for Defensive Player of the Year when it's all said and done. He's got the addition of Chandler Jones on the opposite side of him. My number 2 is Max Crosby.
Wow.
I really think him being in that division with the Broncos, the Chiefs, and the Chargers, it's a pass-happy division. I think he's going to have ample opportunities to get after the quarterback, and his numbers are going to reflect it, especially with them having another legit pass rush threat on the opposite side of him. And like you guys said before, too, he's not afraid to go out there and stop the run. So I'm expecting a huge season from Max Crosby this season. At the end, I could have egg on my face, but I truly think that Max Crosby is going to be right in the thick of it for Defensive Player of the Year. And I think he really has a great shot to take home that award. But my number 1 is the GOAT, one of the best defensive players of all time. 6 straight years of being first team All-Pro and 6 straight years being 99 club. That number 1 is Aaron Donald of the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, until otherwise, I just don't see how he can't be that guy. So Aaron Donald is my number 1.
This is not going to be suspenseful. Number 1 for me is Aaron Donald as well. Kind of like Cottrell said, he's GOAT. He actually just got voted as the best defensive lineman ever by ESPN panel. There's not much you have to say about him. If you're a football fan, he's that good. He's in that elite territory, has that air about him where you just say his name. I don't need to list accolades. I don't do any of that. If you've ever watched a football game that he played in, you know who the hell he is. He finally became a Super Bowl champ last year, contemplated walking away, and he apparently went home and got remotivated. And he's in crazy shape.
He didn't contemplate walking away.
Well, I mean, he said he did. I'm not going to call the man a liar.
Yeah, he wanted a contract.
All right, well, whatever. Again, I'm not calling him a liar. He'll pick me up and throw me somewhere.
Probably. He wanted money, bro. It's just same thing as if a college coach is contemplating going to the NFL. Thinking about it.
But however you want to slice it, the dude is just incredible. He took over in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl last year. Gene said it a couple of times. He literally became unblockable almost. Got to Joey Burrow on that last play that sealed the Super Bowl win for them. Literally disrupted them before Joey could let the routes progress. The infamous Jalen Ramsey route. So, dude's a stud. I love watching him play. If you're a fan of football, he's a dude you can't not like. He's just a monster. So, number one again for me, same as last year, Aaron Donald.
And no reason why he shouldn't be number one. My number one's Aaron Donald also. Aaron Donald is the best defensive player in football. He's the best defensive player in the last 20 years of football, period. I'm sorry. It's just he is what he is. The guy wreaks havoc at the quarterback. He stops the run. He needs to be doubled and triple teams. He has the highest double team rate. He has the highest triple team rate in the NFL. He basically won the Super Bowl at the end for the St. Louis Rams by getting to Joe Burrow, because if Joe Burrow progresses through that route and sees Jamar Chase, we're saying the Bengals are Super Bowl champions. Aaron Donald he's just next level, man. He is the second greatest defensive lineman ever to play football. That's an accolade that is, yeah, he's number one. We can end it there. I'd like the Max take at least. I don't hate Max at 2.
I don't hate it. I think it's a little bit high. I would be more concerned is that you just said Von Miller sucks ass. I mean, I guess that's where I would have the questions, especially I mean, I get it. I don't think I can buy that Trey Hendrickson's a better player than Von Miller still. I mean, that's kind of where I get stuck.
I mean, once again, I think he's going to be the more productive player. I think going to Buffalo, he's going to be the centerpiece, on that defensive line. He's going to get doubled all game long, and he's not going to have Aaron Donald. I think it's easy to look rejuvenated when you have Aaron Donald and company beside you, but then you go to Buffalo, who has a great defense, but I just think he gets a lot of the double teams, and I don't think production-wise he's going to be up there.
I get it. He didn't have Aaron Donald in Denver, though.
I just want to make one quick comment on the list, and I love Max Crosby, and I had a couple honorable mentions that just missed the list, and I wanted to bring them up. Shaquille Barrett of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was just off my list. Matthew Judon of the Patriots was just off my list, and Chase Young. The only reason he's not on my list is the first season after an ACL tear. I don't think his production will be there, but I definitely think he's a top 10 defensive lineman in the NFL. So
he's also not going to be ready for the start of the season. Yeah, so that was a big reason for me too.
I know how much you love him, Gene. That's literally the reason he's not on my list, because I don't think he's going to play a full season. Talent-wise, he's top 5 or 6. But I mean, next year I think is a different story. I just don't think he's going to play enough to put up numbers to warrant this year.
Okay. Well, let's get into our Mount Rushmore list. That's our defensive line. We get an offense next week. I don't know. You want to do quarterback or not quarterbacks last? Wide receivers, running backs, tight ends?
Let's do tight ends.
What about O-line?
What about O-line?
We did O-line last year.
We can do O-line again.
Ugh. Lines back to back.
Yeah, I was really interested in getting into some skill position players.
Tight ends.
Let's get the nastiness out the way. Then we could get to it back to back to back to back.
Tight ends.
We'll talk about it. Let's get in our GOAT list. And this is a 1 seed. This is 100% a 1 seed in this bracket. The Boston Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, listen, I said it last week. I said it's it's a city that I don't like sports wise. I love the city itself, but I said we're gonna have to talk about the elephant in the room eventually, and they're gonna be very tough to beat. Once we get down to our final 16, like you said, they are going to be a 1 seed. They're going to be the 1 seed in one of the brackets, and I don't know. I mean, we're going to reveal it here in a second, but
I think Boston's number 2s, like their backup list, could beat most teams in most cities in this. I'm serious. I will say this. Rest in peace to the late great Bill Russell, and we did him a fair tribute by not having him on our Mount Rushmore. But no, seriously though, rest in peace to Bill Russell, absolute pioneer of the game, 11 championships in 13 years, a staple to Boston sports. But he's a number 2 seed in Boston, in my opinion. He is. Control. You can shake your head all you want. Larry Bird's a better player.
The one thing, the
more accomplished, more MVPs, more championships.
9 teams in the league, 15 points a game.
I don't argue.
Played against plumbers, 6'5" guys against them. Stop it. It's not the same thing.
Like your number 2 player ever. Yeah, exactly.
And the number 2 player ever averaged 50 points a game versus him. He's a staple defensively. Bill Russell was a staple. That's what he's known for. A staple defensively. And Will Chamberlain averaged 50 points a game versus him.
Didn't win.
The one thing I want to say is I think we need to mention this as well, especially about Bill Russell. I would almost say the contributions he did off the court are almost more important than what he accomplished on the court. And that's saying something. So again, win that many championships, that many accolades. If you're not familiar with what Bill Russell did for the community of Boston, for the African-American community, underprivileged children, sports in general in the Boston area, all I can tell you is it's freaking impressive. I read an article, kind of like a excerpt from a biography somebody wrote, just giving the highlights of what he did after basketball. And I'm telling you, without a shadow of a doubt, he's a better person than he was a basketball player. And that's about as high a praise as I could give for somebody that was as accomplished as he was. So, however you slice it, we're going to argue about it here on the Mount Rushmore, but he's a great of the game, no matter how you slice it, a better human being. So it's definitely a loss for not only the basketball community, but honestly for the planet. The dude was just a great dude, however you slice it.
All right, well, let's get into the Boston athletes from Mount Rushmore. You have the GOAT, the greatest quarterback ever to live, Tom Brady, the most winningest quarterback ever, 7 Super Bowl rings, going for an 8th this year. Still seems at the top of his game.
45. It's insane.
Yeah, absurd. You got Larry Legend, some people 5th, 6th, 7th greatest player ever played a game of basketball, the 2nd best small forward ever to play the game, 3 straight MVPs, and played in a very competitive era and still had 3 straight. You're talking about 3 MVPs in Magic and Jordan's NBA. Just saying it. Might have been Jordan's earliest years, but his 3 MVPs came on Jordan's watch. The 3rd is Bobby Orr of the Boston Bruins. Some people have him as the 2nd best hockey player of all time. I have him 3rd. But however you slice it, you have a top 5 hockey player of all time in the Boston Bruins. And then 4th, you have the greatest hitter to ever play the game of baseball. There's never been a better hitter than Ted Williams. The
Juan Soto Jr. Senior.
Senior. Juan Soto's got to catch up to the splendid Splinter.
I'll go through. I'll start with Ted Williams because you did him last. Obviously, he has one of the most hallowed numbers in all of baseball. He's the last player to hit 400. If you're not familiar with what happened with that, they had a doubleheader the last day of the season. He went 3 for 4 in his first game and ended up 403, I believe. And the manager of the Red Sox wanted to sit him. Came to him in the dugout. He goes, "Hey, I'm going to sit you. I'll probably pinch hit you later." They did the math, obviously. He's like, "I'll probably hit you later in the game because even if you get out, you'll finish at 400." And Ted Williams said, "If you don't put my name on the lineup sheet, I'm going out to the outfield anyway. I'm playing." and then proceeded to go 2 for 4 again and ended up at 406, I believe. There's been a couple guys that have come close. I don't think we're ever going to see it in our lifetime, especially the way analytics are now with guys pretty much just swinging as hard as they can, try to hit home runs all the time. It's not conducive to a 400 hitter. The pitching's better. His eyesight was tested. He in his dominant right eye for a left-handed hitter, he got tested. His eyesight was 20/10. He used to make jokes about being able to actually see the writing on the ball as it was spinning, and I mean, it's hard to say that he was lying about it. Another fact about him that some people don't realize is he lost 3 years of the prime of his career to go fight the war.
I was waiting for that. The prime of his career, he lost the fight in World War II.
Yep, signed up, volunteered, and went and fought in the war for 3 years, and then came back. And you still look at his numbers; he still hit 500 home runs. Ted Williams, in my opinion, doesn't get the due that he really deserves, and that's saying something. How highly everybody speaks of him. I'm telling you, if he doesn't have those 3 years in the war, and he's here and plays to his normal ability, you're talking about mid-sixes home runs. Was a good defensive outfielder. To Gene's point, he's the best pure hitter to ever pick up a baseball bat. You're maybe talking about him being maybe the best ever if he doesn't lose those 3 years, depending on what he does. But either way, he's definitely on Mount Rushmore. Tom Brady speaks for himself. I mean, we talk about him all the time. 7-3 in Super Bowls, just absurd. And he's still doing it. He's going to be 45 this year. And he's got a great team. Not saying he's going to do it, but, you can count on him being there at the end. But he's the GOAT. And then Bobby Orr, I have a number 2. I think Gordie Howe is nice and all. I think Gordie Howe's story is cool. You're talking about talent-wise and the way he played the game. I think Bobby Orr was a better hockey player than everybody not named Wayne Gretzky. That's how highly I think of Bobby Orr. He won 8 straight Norris trophies. I don't know if he's the only player to ever win Norris, MVP, and the Conn Smythe for the MVP of the finals of the same season. The dude, his 10-year peak, he only played 10 years in the league because his knees gave out on him. If you take his 10 years in the league, you could put him up against anybody who has ever played hockey. And he was a defenseman. He revolutionized the position. Bobby Orr, and if you watch him, he was one of the first great skaters ever in the history of NHL. You go watch, we talk about Connor McDavid and guys like that now. Go watch Bobby Orr skate. Go watch Bobby Orr highlights. It's incredible. He was just different. He was way ahead of his time. And last but certainly not least, Larry Bird. I think Gene's point was spot on with the 3 straight MVPs. Again, it's nothing against Bill Russell. And honestly, out of the 3 of us on this show, I'm probably the biggest Bill Russell advocate there is. I think Larry Bird's the better player. He did it on Magic's watch. Jordan was young then, but Isaiah Thomas was still in his prime. You had Akeem, you had all those guys. You won 3 straight in the league with those players, and it's special. So Larry Bird, I mean, this is a tough foursome, man. It's going to take something special to beat him.
Cottrell, why don't you to give us your breakdown of this 4? Introduce us to Dallas. Cottrell's got a prior engagement, so he'll be hopping off shortly. But why don't you give us your thoughts on here and then introduce Dallas for us?
All right. So, I mean, you guys have pretty much got it right on the head with this group. While, we may disagree where we have Bill Russell, things like that. This 4 as is still one of the strongest, if not the strongest Mount Rushmore out there. So they're gonna be tough to beat. They got 2 GOATs and 2 guys who are definitively top 10, top 5 guys. So I think this Boston team is gonna be here for a long time. But their matchup this week, they got Dallas. So we could go through the Dallas roster here real quick. Starting off, I would say you got Roger Staubach, great quarterback of the Cowboys. I know you guys hate the Cowboys, but I mean, it is what it is. Roger Staubach was one of those all-time great quarterbacks, and he's one of the faces of Dallas. Going over to basketball, you got Dirk Nowitzki, arguably, I mean, I don't know if there's much argument with it, but the greatest European basketball player. Is that fair to say?
I don't know. Is that close, really?
For the next 6 years.
Are you saying Luka's going to pass him?
Or are you saying Giannis? Luka or Giannis?
Is Giannis really European, though?
I mean, he's from
Luka.
Isn't he from Greece?
Yeah, that's Europe, though.
So, I mean, Dirk, for what he was, 30,000 plus score. So, all-time great there. He has a championship, has an MVP award, has a Finals MVP award. You got Emmitt Smith from the Dallas Cowboys yet again, all-time leading rusher in the NFL, and he's a 3-time Super Bowl champion. So you have to give him his respect one way or another, regardless of where you think Emmitt Smith is all time. He's a top 5 back in history, and he's number 1 numbers wise. And then last but not least, you have the second best American hockey player ever, in Mike Modano of the Dallas Stars. Stud hockey player.
Yeah, talk about it.
Second best American ever. You guys will give him all his love. 8-time All-Star. You guys will give him the rest of his dues, but
I don't know if there's anything more funny about Cottrell having to introduce a hockey player that he doesn't know shit about. That was so fun to watch. He's like, Cottrell's just reading like the 3 bullet points he knows. He's like, he did that hockey. He's he's American, yep. I think. And all right. He's good.
Second best American for whatever that's worth. 8-time All-Star.
Cottrell, I love you.
And that's where he's at. I got Boston though.
Cottrell, go do your work.
Cottrell, I need your boss. I need your boss's number. This is ridiculous. Could you at least schedule one on a Tuesday or something?
I wish.
Boston's B squad would sweep this Dallas team.
So Boston's B squad is what?
Sweep.
Russell,
David Ortiz,
Poppy. All right, Ortiz. What else though?
Let's figure that. I haven't even thought about it even deeper, because the easier ones were football.
Is there another
second greatest Bruin?
All right, guys. I'll let you guys finish the show here. I'll be back next week.
I'll be back.
Take care, brother.
See you, buddy. Tell your boss he sucks.
I like it. Dante, I'm not kidding, bro. If you're up for it, hop in the spot. If not, no biggie. I know you're doing a great job with the graphics and editing. But
Mr. Clicky Click,
I think he's awesome at it.
Give me one second.
All right, we'll do. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. The Dallas squad's just not that good. Cottrell's got a point. Listen, Mike Modano's a very good hockey player.
He is.
But he's not on any. He wouldn't crack any other city's Mount Rushmore.
I think this is easy. I don't think this is so clear. There's nobody on Houston's that would make Boston's. Like, there's not one matchup you could come up with here that anybody on this list beats anybody from the Boston, no matter how you situate it. It's just that simple. I think Stahl. You get a little hurt. Not want to hate hurt, but like Staubach was the first really like great high profile Cowboy, and he was a very good player. Again, I mean, I know what I think of Troy Aikman. I think you feel very similar. I think Troy Aikman's overrated. We've had that discussion before. Emmitt Smith's great, but does he have a higher standing in a sport than anybody on Boston's? I don't think so.
My man Dante, what's up, brother?
I'm here, man.
and then Bobby Orr just demolished. I mean, and again, I'm a big Mike Modano fan, but he's not Bobby Orr. He's not Bobby Orr.
I agree with you. I'm the Dallas fan here.
I would say there's no bigger Madonna fan than Dante. So
he's the one that pretty much got me into hockey. So I will say nothing bad about that man.
Fully understood. We got a fun topic to get into next, though. We're going to talk about Deshaun Watson and the whole situation with him. And I think that this is the perfect topic. That we got football, college football, and a little. You got to be kidding me with the Miami Dolphins, but we'll get into that. But I think it's a perfect topic to have Dante on. Dante, if you don't know him, if you're just listening to Wire to Wire, is ECG, man. It's football, and it's great football stuff. I watched his entire quarterback special with 5 other guys on the show, and it was, I'm serious. I was like heated. I felt like I was in like an ESPN debate, and they all bring good points, and I have my ideas and my points. But with that being said, if you haven't watched it yet, that top 40 list the tiered quarterback list is something to tune into on ECG.
It was very well done.
Thank you.
I don't agree with where people land it, but yes, it was very well done.
I actually agree with most of it, so that's why I liked it even more.
How'd you feel about the Justin Herbert being moved to 2? Because
that was the part I didn't agree with. I think I commented on your tweet too. I said other than I think Burrow and Herbert are both up there. That's what I would have changed. Other than that, I think I agree with most of it.
Okay.
I think Kirk Cousins was too high. I think Tua was too high. Those two, they just drive me nuts seeing them that high.
Well, I mean, it is what it is, but, hold on, let me try to see.
Obviously, I mean, listen, everybody has their own list, their own opinion. That's what makes it great is we could all watch football and everyone sees something different.
Mm-hmm. That's
so
very true.
That's the fun part of it.
That's very true, man. But,
and
you're cutting out a little bit.
I think we lost Gene. Wait, he's back.
There you
Deshaun
go.
Watson suspended 6. Deshaun Watson suspended 6 games, and the NFL appealed it already. So I don't think that 6 games will be standing. I don't think that's where we're going to end up. I think that we're still going to look at a year. I think they're still going to push the envelope. At minimum, I think you're going to see 12 games. I think you'll see an indefinite suspension with an appeal. But listen, Kittrell had it right, man. The arbitrator ruled 6 games. But the NFL is not accepting that decision, and nor should they. Deshaun Watson, and you're coming from a guy, and Bill, you guys remember when we first talked about this?
Yeah.
I was very heavy. Innocent until proven guilty.
Yep.
Innocent until proven guilty. Let's get all the facts. There could be a lot of people saying a lot of disparaging things about this man. Let's make sure they're accurate before we throw him off. Nation came out, proved their case. The judge said that they pulled in the past. This is not something that is. 6 games is unprecedented.
I mean, they should have really just started off the season at a minimum a full season with everything that happened. But I'm also on the other side of when you think about the whole case, and this is not to get controversial, but this is just kind of my stance. Like, I don't know how much that this does for women's rights as well with everybody just settling. Because I always say when people start settling on cases like this, it makes both sides seem kind of suspect. In my opinion.
So, I mean, I'll shed a little light on that. You have to look at it from the victim's point of view. A lot of these women, we still don't. Some of them we don't know their names. They don't want their lives uprooted by this either. They've moved on with their lives. They've cooperated. They've kept their identities anonymous. They don't want to go in court and have to, sit in front of. Listen, if any of these went to trial, it's going to be a spectacle with as big a story this is. They're going to have to sit there, and have their trauma replayed on, CNN, ESPN, whoever else is there. That's a lot of it. They don't want to go back through it again. To look at it from that point of view, some of them want to, they feel. They want they get the financial aspect of it, and they want to move on with their lives and go back to their families and their kids or whatever it may be. I understand what you're saying, but You see that a lot with any kind of, violent sexual, trial. That's the one thing, prosecutors always try to avoid. They don't want to make these people get on the stands and relive what they went through. I'm not saying he raped anybody, so don't, I'm not
Facts.
trying to, disparage anything on that aspect. But I mean, it's part of it. Anytime you're part of any kind of, any kind of sexual or any kind of violence, you don't want to make the victims go through it again. And to Gene, your other point, the first night we talked about it, we actually kind of agreed on it. We wanted to kind of really wait and see where everything was. And, and I even agree with you. I said probably when it was all said and done that some of the women might just be jumping on the cash train here. But I also said, I felt very, confident in that, and even more so now. I didn't think there was any way 24 of these women were all lying. Like I just didn't see that as being possible. There was some of these women were telling the 100% truth, and I think definitively we have our answer to that now. And you brought up a very good point as well. The judge came out and said point blank that the NFL had 3 things they had to prove, and they proved all 3 of them without a shadow of a doubt. She said in a ruling as well, without a shadow of a doubt, that he absolutely did these things. She said he showed no remorse, no contrition. He had a mitigating factor of obviously he has a big presence in the community, so that helped him on his side a little bit. But I think that the biggest thing for me that people are losing sight of with all of this is she only gave him 6 games because she was going off the guideline of what is in the CBA, not because she didn't want to give him more games. She with being an arbiter, she has to be fair and impartial and rule on, what the, Gene already mentioned the word, the precedent. She has to rule based upon those things, not based upon how guilty she is or what a bad person he is or anything like that. She pretty much, she took a backhanded shot at the NFL, pretty much saying like, hey, you want me to give you a punishment like this? You guys got to shore up your CBA because the language in it's kind of shit. Like, you guys need to fix it. There's loopholes in it. So that's why she said, she's like, based upon all that, I'm giving him 6 games because that's pretty much the structure and the outline for which I've seen you guys operate for in the past. So that's how we're here.
That's not just, that's what they did. That's what they did with Ray Rice. That's what they did with Greg Hardy. That's what they did with Ben Roethlisberger. That's what they've done.
Yeah. Period.
It's the NFL's fault, and the truth is, you can't just now the rules change, but Deshaun Watson should. If you're giving Calvin Ridley a year for betting $1,500 on FanDuel, and Deshaun Watson 6 games, what does that say to every female watcher of the NFL?
Well, I mean,
that one's just way more important than women.
Oh no, I agree, and I think, but I think the language in the CBA has failed them, and it's something they're going to have to change. But they've already changed things. They already changed things last year, and this was one of the major things they changed. They didn't want Roger Goodell to be judge, jury, and execute. They didn't want him to have the power to do that anymore. They wanted the players felt, with certain things he handed down that it wasn't fair. So they wanted to have the appeal process to be able to go in front of an independent arbiter. So that's where we're at. He still has the final say to be able to appeal, which he did today, which I think we all knew was coming. But that was my main argument with Cottrell. I didn't necessarily think what Cottrell said was wrong to the point of what he was going to end up getting from her. Maybe I should have been more clear with that. But I think at the end, I think what me and you said, that it was going to be at least 12 games. I think that's where we're headed ultimately here. I
said a year, bro.
Yeah, I mean, he might get a year. Originally, when they first sat down, they asked for indefinite with the possibility of asking for reinstatement after the 12th game, and they wanted it fined, and that's a big part of it as well. I think the NFL is really pissed off, and I think they have every right to be. And this is the part that I think looks even worse for Cleveland. The way Cleveland structured his contract is just the biggest scumbag move ever. I'm sorry.
The only way to get him. Like, you could say what you want to say, and listen, if Cleveland wanted Deshaun Watson, It was the only way to pry him away from Atlanta and pry him away from New Orleans. He was going to Atlanta. The deal was done. Cleveland's like, how do you want to structure the contract?
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
But my point to that is that also, to me, that to me in some way is an admission of guilt. That's him saying, I know I did certain things. I know that's the way this is going to play out because that's the way it happened. I don't want to lose money. And I'm sorry, like that's doubling down on your mistake. And I think that's the other thing that the NFL doesn't want to have happen.
Last year, he got paid for his entire year last year.
I get it, and I'm telling you, I think that's also part of it. Goodell said so as much in his statement today that they think his suspension should also be accompanied by a very hefty fine. They are out for money on this, and they want blood for it. And to your earlier point, and even Dante's, they have screwed up this exact situation so badly before with Ray Rice, Greg Hardy. List goes on and on and on. That's why they're not going to settle with him. This is the one they can actually say, hey, this is what we wanted. We didn't get it. We're now going to appeal it and still go after what we want because we think that's what's fair. I think ultimately, he loses. I think what's also going to hurt him, depending on who Goodell. I also think Goodell isn't going to give it to somebody else. I think Goodell is going to do it himself, and then he's going to trot around and take the victory lap, and also not going to be able to say, "Hey, we didn't put it in the hands of anybody else. We decided to keep this internal. NFL is going to rule on it. This is what we feel is just." They're going to suspend him, and then obviously he's going to appeal to the Supreme Court, and this is going to go on for a long time. But I read her brief. It's very damning, man. I think everybody's concentrating too much on the fact that she only gave him 6 games because she felt that's all she could give him based upon the CPA, not because of anything else. Like, if you read it, she's like, he absolutely did this stuff. He did it. He meant to do it. That was the other thing. She said it was predatory. Like, when he contacted these women, he had this in mind. This is what he wanted to do. And he went forward and with all of the situations. And she even said the one thing that she's part of his punishment as well is he can't do anything without Cleveland Browns knowledge, because she said he's also, if he's left unattended, he's highly likely to do it again. Like, he has a problem. Like, and that's coming from a federal judge who's seen these things before in her life. At the end of the day, dude, I think if everybody feels like justice was done, I think then he can do his suspension, pay his fine, and then move on to play football. I think it's black eye for Cleveland, to your point, dude. They did whatever was necessary to pry him away from Atlanta. And if you're giving him that contract and he's adamant that you're structuring it that way, you have to know that, dude, that that he did this stuff. Like, you have to know that. And they went forward with it anyway. They always, there's the cliche, you can't put a price on winning, and you can't put a price on, winning a Super Bowl trophy. But $240 million is apparently that price, because that's what Cleveland's willing to pay for it. And there's still no guarantee they're going to win it. But, they felt comfortable writing that guaranteed check to bring a guy in who, for lack of
had a lot of shit looming over his head.
Yeah, is a serial sexual assaulter, man. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, I don't think that I just don't think I could just add anything to that. That was an incredible rant to go over everything that happened with Deshaun Watson, man. That was spot on. What do you want me to add to that? That's literally A to Z.
Speak your mind, brother. Speak your mind.
No, that's it. That was it. I agree with everything you said. Everything, every word.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
I just, just to go back to my previous point, like I said, that wasn't a comment to be damning in any way. It was just for me with everything that's going on nowadays. Like, like I said, to me, sometimes those plea deals and things like that are those, coming to an agreement about a certain set of money can be suspect on both sides. But also, and Bill, you brought up an excellent point. It's got me thinking exactly on, thinking back on what I said. But, to me, it's one of those things where if it's that serious, and if we really need to get down to, the structure of what's wrong and what's right, I would have loved to see, at least some of those women, take it all the way through and really give this dude the punishment that he really deserves. And I know they have to relive it and things like that, but also he has to relive those things that he did as well, and his family and his friends, and and it's a trickle down effect from there too. It hurts on both sides.
Oh, absolutely does, and I want to clear that up too. I don't think you meant it that way at all, Dante.
Yeah.
I was just saying, like, from being, just being around or like hearing or reading things, it's just one thing you pick up on. Anybody who's ever been a victim of a sexual assault, they try to keep that stuff out of court. But if you want to watch, I meant to send this to you earlier, Gene, and I forgot because I just got busy. But some of his deposition stuff has leaked.
I watched that right before this with my buddy.
Bro, did you watch it, Gene?
No.
Google it, dude.
There's like a clip of like all the crazy stuff he said. It was like, do you think she was cute? Well, no, I have a girlfriend. Like, what does that have to do with the question?
Yeah, like it was just if you watch that. If you watch it, Dante's obviously seen it, so I'll say my piece and I'll let Dante talk. But if you're a defender of him and you watch that, I don't know how you could think he's innocent after watching it. I just don't.
Oh, he's definitely not innocent.
They ask him the other thing, and then they ask him, they're like, well, why did you make it seem like on Instagram that you were in New York when in reality, like you were in Dallas?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to plead the fifth on that one. Like it's not good. It's not a good look. It's just not. There's no, I'm glad. I am really glad we handled it the way we did at the beginning. You're 100% right. We let a lot of it come out. We didn't really talk about this a lot on the show.
We didn't either on ours.
Yeah, listen, you don't want to be the guy that puts the clip out that ends up going viral because you're dead ass wrong.
I didn't want it to be all these women are liars, and I also didn't want it to be that he's guilty, and if it turns out that this is all a plot against him. But I think all the evidence is out, and I think you know what happened.
I think all of us were just like, there's some things that you get political about, and there's other things you don't. And this is with today's climate, especially, regardless of how you feel and how political you want to be, this is one of those things that you as an adult take a step back and you try to weigh out both sides of the equation. And at the end of the day, it's not up to us, So saying what we're going to say is only, to our peers might only damage our character. And it's like, I'm not involved with it. It's one of those things you just keep to yourself and wait until all the things come out. And let them play out the way that they are going to play. But that disposition that he did, man, when I watched it today, and the question back or the answer back to the guy was, I can't really answer that because I have a girlfriend. What does you having a girlfriend have to do with answering this question right now? Are you just trying to prove a point that you're some loyal guy? When it obviously, this is what my friend said here, and I really had to take a step back. Once you watch it, Gene, just remember this statement that my friend made today when we watched it. He must have had a lot of side chicks.
Yeah, he was very, I don't want to say coached, but like you could tell he was run through like everything that he could possibly be asked, and he knew how to answer all of it. Like his
delivery sucked.
Cringy. Yeah, it's cringy. It's cringy.
I think some contrition and some remorse would do him way better than
I agree.
His stand on everything.
And that's a big part of it. I mean, I think if you watched ESPN yesterday after it happened, the Browns released some statement saying like, "Oh, he's sorry and he's this and he's that. We just want to move on." He's never said sorry once, not once.
He
not
actually
one
maintained
time.
his innocence today, which is contrary. I did see that he maintained his innocence today, which is contrary to what the Cleveland Browns said, that he's remorseful.
Yeah, he hasn't showed remorse, sympathy, empathy, anything. All he keeps saying is, "I didn't do it." That's all he says. I remain innocent. I'm here to clear my name. Well, buddy, your name's never going to be clear now. Like,
even after the last day of trial, when he had to come on stand with his lawyer, it was so weird. It was like he was like a puppet. He was Pinocchio up there. You could tell. It was so weird. Man, I'm not going to really say too much. My lawyer told me not to say too much about this. When he could have been up there, I'm sorry. totally distraught. This is not the situation I wanted to be for anybody. It was just like my lawyer told me not to say anything.
Gene, I want to ask you a question though, and I want to ask you a question because I want your take on this because we kind of went through this with Michael Vick. How much more heat and how much heat do you think it's going to bring on him? A, in the locker room, and B, how much he even thinks these guys in the field? Because everywhere they go now, especially when they travel on the road, the amount of heat and things that are going to be said to them and all the teammates now, what kind of effect do you think that has? Because I remember we went through with Michael. Like when we went through with Vic, like when we signed him, I remember all the other guys saying they're like, those first couple of road games were like the worst ones we've ever had. Like the things that were said, the signs, like everything.
Oh, if Ovechkin was getting it for the Ukraine thing, what do you think Deshaun Watson's going to get over here?
Yeah. The signs and the visiting crowds are going to destroy him everywhere he goes. He's going to have some of the funniest and also some of the most vile signs that are going to be making fun of him. And he deserves it. I think the biggest difference between him and Michael Vick is Michael Vick, listen, I love dogs. I have a dog lover. I'll never forgive Michael Vick for what he did to dogs. But with that being said, he showed contrition. He took time to give back to the community. He donated his time, money, and he really tried to make it right. Deshaun Watson's done none of that. Deshaun Watson has maintained innocence and that he hasn't done anything wrong and is constantly playing as like these women are just trying to get me and get my money. Yet you settled with 22 of them already. You've paid off 22 of them already. That's absurd.
And Gene, just if I can add on to that, what makes this even worse versus the Michael Vick thing is Michael Vick was around that environment. Like this wasn't a thing that was like, he was around that like his whole life. Yeah. And he thought that was the norm until somebody was like, you're going to pay the ultimate price. You should have known this was bad. And then he started to capitalize on that. And Michael Vick's where he is today has, more opportunities than he did before. The thing about Deshaun Watson, this is a kid in poverty. This is a kid where work done was paying for his mom's house. Like this guy was growing up, molded by trying to do the right thing. And when he got the little bit of money and he got the little bit of fame, he tried to do a lot of his crazy stuff behind doors, and it came out, and it bit him right in the ass too. So that's the way I kind of think about it. I'm like, wow, it's Michael Vick is one thing, and he learned from. He was remorseful, and he gave back and put his money where his mouth is. And Deshaun Watson is just being a freaking robot and a crybaby.
And also on top of everything else, Michael Vick got punished. Michael Vick went to jail,
and he took it.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say about Michael Vick going to jail, and I always say this. And it drives me up a wall. And I think you two know this, but you guys know why Michael Vick went to jail, right? Like the charges he went to jail for where?
Well, I mean,
the charges he went to jail.
We had the dog fighting.
No.
He had hold on. He had the tax stuff, and then he had, and there was all like the.
That's not why I went to jail.
I don't know what the official charges were.
He went to jail for racketeering. He went to jail for running an illegal gambling on dogs. Not because he killed them. And the part that drives me nuts is he served his time for gambling. Because the government couldn't take a piece of his gambling money. And we're going to act like we're all holier than thou. Get the hell out of here. That's why it was so tough. That's why it was so tough for me to forgive Michael Vick, because everyone knows he paid his time. No, we didn't. What made me forgive Michael Vick was how he responded, how he reacted to the community, how he helped and put money out to become a better human being, and I forgave him.
A lot of things change when you're behind bars, man. I ain't never been in that environment, and I hope to God and that I never have to be in that environment where I'm looking at some gray bars in front of me. But that, from the people that I've known that have done time, for the people from afar that I've known that have done time, it's like it either changes you or makes you worse. So, and this is one of them things that at the end of the day, it is what it is. The situation's going on how it's going on, but Deshaun Watson in every single moment was not molded to be the person that he was, and he let his weaknesses get the best of him because he was underprivileged, came into a privileged situation. Everybody was talking about him. He was a resurrection for the Houston Texans and being the bright spot, taking the mantle from TJ Watt or JJ Watt. I mean, doing well without DeAndre Hopkins and being in that number one guy in the spotlight. Everybody can say what you want. 2020 was an incredible season. The only reason he didn't win MVP was because they were a 4-12 team. I mean, just call it like it is. But I mean, yeah, man, it's bad.
No one
it's
denies his talent.
Oh
no,
he's super talented.
He's a special talent.
That's why I did my top 40 list and I had him in my top 10, and I'm like, I'm not trying to be sensitive to the situation, but if you didn't have all the charges and everything on him, and you look back on that 2020 season, he got the contract based off of that. We know how talented he is.
His character is this problem. His play on the football field is great. We've been on this for a while, though. I feel like we've said what we need to say about Deshaun Watson. I'd like to move on to the Pac-12. Yeah. Let's move on to the Pac-12, and we can kind of release each one of our winners of the North and South. I'm gonna assume, I could be wrong, but I'll assume that we all have the same winner of the North. I'm just guessing, like my head's here, right?
I would think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all have the same winner of the North. I think the South is where it might change. I know Dante's opinion on the South, and I'll tell you right now, because Dante was so strong about it, and I've seen a lot of his Twitter's posts and a couple of his videos about it, it really made me do deep research on, last year's winner in Utah and USC. But we'll get into that. We're starting with my North winner. I have the Oregon Ducks. I don't think any coach is walking into a better situation. 13 returning starters. Oregon's the class of the North. I think that they just are too talented for the North, and I feel like that they're the best football team in the North. So the culture's Mario Cristobal is built there, and I think that Oregon Ducks team wins the North pretty handily. My South winner, is it going north-south, right?
Yep.
You want to do both yours? You want me to do North and then?
I'll do both mine.
Okay.
For my South winner, this was extremely tough. Utah's defense versus USC's offense. Utah's lost Devin Lloyd, which is a big loss, but I believe they have 5 returning starters on the defensive side of the ball. Out of the 6 best players they had on defense, they have 5 returning. Devin Lloyd, the only one leaving. I think Utah will be right there in the thick of things, but I think that what it comes down to is Caleb Williams, Lincoln Riley, Jordan Addison, and the USC Trojans. I have the Trojans, and they have to play at Utah, which makes it even tougher. They have to go on the road to beat Utah to be able to win the Pac-12 South. But I think it'll be USC over Oregon for the Pac-12 championship.
Interesting. Bill, are you drinking the Kool-Aid? I think all of ours are, even Controls is right. I think we all have Oregon across the board.
So Oregon actually, I believe, brings back 14 starters from last year. They won the North Championship last year and went to the Pac-12 championship game and lost to Utah. A lot of things going in their favor this year, including their schedule. They skip USC this year. They don't have USC on the schedule, and they get Utah and UCLA. They're probably next to, agreed upon best teams in the Pac-12. They have both of them home at Austin Stadium. Not an easy place to play, super loud. So they have that going for them. They have a very, to Gene's point, Mario Cristobal left the cupboard with a lot of talented players there. They returned their whole offensive line this year that'll protect. The prize transfer quarterback from Auburn, Bo Nix, is going to start for them. They return running backs Byron Cardwell and Sean Dallas. They'll anchor the backfield. They have the up-and-coming threesome for wide receivers is Troy Franklin, Dante Thornton, and Chris Hudson. That's expected to be your starting 3 at wideout. Defensively, you're going to have Noah Sewell and defensive lineman Brandon Durkis. going to anchor the defense. The defense is probably where the question marks are for Oregon. They have a lot of new faces. A lot of guys are going to have to get up to speed and play well and mature and gel quickly. But I think they're going to have some leeway in the North. I think they could probably drop a game here and there. I don't know what their college football playoff outlook looks like, but I think they win the Pac-12 North comfortably, and they go to the Pac-12 championship game again this year. For the South, I am not going to drink the Kool-Aid, to answer your question, Dante. I'm going to go with the defending Pac-12 champs, the Utah Utes. They bring back, no pun intended, rising star quarterback Cameron Rising. They also bring back Tavion Thompson, along with their two stud tight ends, Brent Kuthi and Dalton Kincaid. They're going to come back to lead the offense that led the Pac-12 in scoring last year at almost 38 points per game, and with the highest average of 6.6 yards per play. The biggest thing they have to work on offensively is the offensive line. They're going to have to replace 3 of the 5 starters from last year. But
so it's funny you say that. I just want to make a quick comment. USC's biggest issue was stopping the run. They were getting shredded on the ground. And if Utah was a better ground team that had a better offensive line in front of them, that is really where I made my decision.
Utah is a run-first team, though. Like I said, their 2 leading receivers last year were both tight ends. They love to run the ball. The two-headed monster, the running backs. There were a lot of play action, a lot of tight end stuff. And to your point, USC did. They ranked 13th out of 13th for yards per game given up on the ground last year, almost 170. Listen, that's no slight to Lincoln Riley. I think that offense is going to purr. With Caleb there and Jordan, I think they're going to be fine offensively. I think the reason I'm sticking with Utah is I think it's going to take him a year to rebuild that defense. I think, you watch Utah. I think Utah was better than everybody thought they were if you watched that Rose Bowl last year.
Agreed.
I think we would all agree it was probably the best bowl game of the year last year.
Agreed.
That ceiling for Utah is a lot higher. To your point, they do have to replace Devin Lloyd. The only reason there's a lot of optimism there, they have a highly touted Florida Gator transfer, Muhammad Diable, that came over from Florida. He's going to start a middle linebacker. He's going to try to fill the shoes of Devin Lloyd, who left for the NFL last year. And to Gene, your point as well, biggest game of the year is going to be USC, and they have it at home. USC's got to go to Utah.
Sure.
So I think the only thing that concerns me is, again, if Lincoln is ahead of schedule defensively, and they have a tough schedule. They have to go to UCLA, Washington State, which is a sneaky trip, and the aforementioned, like I already said before, they have to go to Oregon. So I think there's a chance they could actually beat USC and still lose the South. So that's
exactly where my head was.
So that option does exist in the universe. So that could play out that way. I do think Utah is the best team, top to bottom, and I think if they're going to get USC, I think this is the year they're going to have to do it. Because I do think Lincoln Riley will have the defense, obviously more talented through recruiting and transfers. I think that defense will be a lot better next year. Mm-hmm. This is the year you're going to have to get USC if you want to get them, because I think we all do agree with the way he's going to recruit. I think this is probably on the precipice of being a very, long USC title run about to start here.
We've already seen it for the 2023 class. He's already flipped like 12 recruits that were going to UCLA and Oregon already to USC. It was something like insane. So
and the big thing about Utah is too, they have 7 starters coming back. Everybody's pointing at Devin Lloyd, but what's the kid's name? Van Fillinger and Kareem Reed. They're gonna, like I said, they're gonna. Both those linebackers started last year on either side of Devin Lloyd. They're both back. They're going to pair him with Diabate in the middle.
Travis Dye, they flipped to come there. That was insane.
Yep. That defense is going to be very talented. Kyle Whittingham and those guys are ready to go. I think, Gene, me and you look at things a lot of similar, very similarly sometimes with, you compare the two units and which one's closer to the other one on the other team to give the other team the advantage. And I agree with you. I think even with the people they have coming back on offense, I think USC's offense is going to be better. We know what Caleb Williams is. You know, I think they're going to score a lot of points. I just think the gap between USC's offense and Utah's is smaller than it's going to be Utah's defense and USC's defense. So that's why I give the slight edge to Utah.
The whole beauty of it is USC's defense doesn't have to play against Utah's defense. They have to play against their offense. I think that if the strength of the Utah team is their defense, and Lincoln Riley still figures out a way to put up 38 points when they go at Utah, I think they'll win the game. I'm curious. Katraw's Oregon also.
Oh snap! Let me start this over. Sorry about that. Yeah, he has Oregon also to start out. So
I know it's going to USC. I get it.
Yeah. Might go UC. Oh, USC. Okay.
Yeah, he's been saying that for a while.
UCLA is a dark horse there too.
UCLA is. We talked about that on our show.
It is.
I have
a couple skill players.
I have the same thing as Bill. I mean, I told him in a text. I said, "Hey man, you're agreeing with me there with Oregon and Utah." I'm on the side of caution. Like, you know, as much as Devin Lloyd got love at Utah last year, their secondary is no joke. And the reason why I say that is because the only receiver, and this is why I think this receiver is going to do really, really well, and why he was my number one coming out of college. Drake London destroyed them on that secondary. I mean, it wasn't even close. I mean, it was like something like 15 catches for 170 yards and a couple touchdowns. I mean, it was absolute domination. But for the rest of the year, you know, Cam Rising came in at quarterback, and that program literally flipped on its head. I mean, they were. I mean, he was those defenses that they were going against were starstruck. So I agree with you there, and I will say this right now, and I know we haven't done on our show our top four or who we think is going to be in the college football playoff, and I think they sneak in at number 4 at the end of the year, and they're just going to run through the Pac-12. But USC is just not their year this year. The place on that team is their defense. That's the only thing that's suspect right now. I don't think they have the strength to even compete.
Agreed.
UCLA might even pull out a win on them this year. I mean,
listen, Dante, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think their biggest weakness is their defense.
Mm-hmm.
I just have so much faith in Caleb Williams, Lincoln Riley, and Jordan Addison.
The thing about
when you have that, it's like having Bryce Young and Jamison Williams.
There's a thing that I like to say, right? I think when you look at the SEC, they're the overall best conference. When you look at the Big Ten, they're when it comes to big kids, they're like the biggest conference. And you look at the Pac-12, a lot of people like us that stay up to 2 o'clock in the morning to watch those games, it's the fastest conference. The Big 12 is like just the weaker of all of those with the ACC. They just have teams that do really, really well. It's the same teams every freaking year that do well. But when you look at what Caleb...
Can I give you my 2 cents on that?
Mm-hmm.
Just what you're saying about the fastest conference. I don't think they're the fastest conference. I think they play the fastest conference.
That's what I mean, yeah.
No, my apologies, because I think that as speed. I think they just play a lot of hurry-up ball.
Agreed.
I'm not saying like speed of their players. It's the momentum of the Pac-12.
I took it the same way. I took it the same way Gene did, because I was gonna say, if you're gonna go off that, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt at all that the SEC is the fastest conference. But yeah, in regards to speed of play and all that type of stuff, yeah, I mean that's fine. That's a whole different.
Yeah, that's what I meant. No. That's exactly what I meant. It's like when you watch those games, you're like, damn, it's already over, because it's like a completion after completion on a dump off pass or a screen pass. They're not running out of bounds a ton. You know, they're not running up the middle. They're outside runs, really short passes, run the clock off really, really fast, and that's what you get with the Pac-12. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you, Bill. But you know, Utah is, and you know, I say Utah and Iowa are like the same team every freaking year, because they end up in the top 10. So one of them might squeak in the top 5, and they always shit the bed. And it's like, why are they doing this every single year? They disappoint everybody.
Well, hopefully they don't do it again for the sake of year 2 lists.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big Lincoln Riley fan, so I'm gonna ride or die with USC. Let's move into You Gotta Be Kidding Me.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Bill, I have a great one this week. Would you like to start us?
I really don't have one. I saw the thing about Marquise Brown earlier today. I know that's what Cottrell was going to use.
Yeah, go ahead, use it.
No, yeah, I mean, again, it's tone deaf, man. I don't. If you get arrested for criminally speeding, if you're not familiar, Marquise Brown got pulled over, doing about 50 miles per hour over the speed limit. Hey, man, like.
You already seen Henry Ruggs do this, man.
Yeah. Open the internet, man. Like, you literally just saw a guy lose his career and kill people over this stupid shit. I understand you got this money and all these guys want to buy these cars. And listen, dude, there's no bigger car guy. Anybody who knows me knows I love cars. And if I had that type of money, I would own them. I promise you I would. Like, anybody who knows me will tell you that. Gene will tell you that.
Well, Bill, let me ask you a question. As you're a car guy, I grew around racing all my life. Like, my family has been deep into racing. Any type of racing you could think of, they've been involved with it. I had never seen one of my family members that has been in a race car or on a motorcycle drive crazy like that on the road. They're like the safest drivers that you can find.
Yeah.
And they said, meet me on the racetrack.
Yeah.
Big dummies.
Listen, yeah, like, listen, I get it, man. You want to drive a Ferrari, you want to drive a Lamborghini. It's tempting. It's tempting to go, ripping down some road 130 because it's very easy to do in those cars. And trust me, it's easy. Like, it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the one thing you would never find me do. I mean, to your point, man, there's a time and place for all that stuff. These guys have to realize that they're not, that they're not unbreakable, man. Like, there's. You're not invincible. And again, we saw it with Henry Ruggs. I mean, he killed a person, damn near killed himself and his girlfriend. And again, his life, professionally, for all intents and purposes, is over. These guys got to be smarter. I don't know how else to say it. I just don't. There's no reason for it. It's irresponsible. And again, it's usually. And Henry Ruggs' case is the prime example. He did the wrong thing and he didn't die. Somebody else does. I don't think that's anything that anybody wants to live with. He's got to live with that for the rest of his life. And Marquise Brown, if he didn't get caught this time, maybe he does it 2 weeks from now and, something else happens and he hits somebody.
Just go listen to Jalen Waddle talk about he did an interview of just like the conversation that he has with Henry Ruggs. Like, it's not the fact that we think this guy is a bad guy whatsoever, young, dumb, and stupid. But, like, it's heartbreaking to hear the stories about just like the brotherhood that they still have even after that. You don't want to end up like that, man.
No, just make better decisions. I mean, again, you're an NFL receiver making millions upon millions. Like, who, honestly, except for like oil billionaires and stuff like that, like, who lives a better life than Marquise Brown? Like, honestly, like you wake up every day, you get to play a sport you love that you're good at, make millions of dollars, big houses, fast ass cars. Enjoy it, man. Just be smart about it. That's all I would say. That's be my you got to be kidding me for this week. Just be smart. Be smarter.
Come on, you got to be kidding me.
Thank you. So I have one that I love. I love using this because I want to read. Yeah, if you've lived under a rock, the Miami Dolphins, Stephen Ross and the Miami Dolphins were fined $1.5 million. A first-round draft pick forfeited next year. A third-round draft pick forfeited 2 years from now. For tampering with Tom Brady and Sean Payton. Then the NFL, after imposing one of the largest fines ever, they said it was one of the most egregious forms of tampering they have ever seen ever. Roger Goodell was speechless on how many rules they broke to get there. Stephen Ross has what they said. No, just make one more point. What they said was they couldn't find enough proof to substantiate the claims of purposely losing. They didn't say we found proof to prove them innocent of trying to lose football games. We found proof that he never offered Brian Flores $150,000 per loss. They didn't say that. They said we didn't find substantial proof. So Stephen Ross, just being the moron that he is, went out and released a statement. I'm going to read that statement for you. The independent investigation cleared our organization of any issues related to tanking and all of Brian Flores' other allegations. As I've said all along, these allegations were false, malicious, and defamatory. And this issue is now put to rest. With regards to tampering, I strongly disagree with the conclusions and the punishment. However, I will accept the outcome because the most important thing is that we have no distractions for our team as we begin an exciting and winning season. I will not allow anything to get in the way of that. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Did Brian Flores say that one of the things that he cited was he did not want to get on the boat to meet with Tom Brady?
Yeah.
Is that not one thing he said? Did Brian Flores say that the organization was breaking rules and that he didn't want to be a part of that?
Yep.
So for him to put out this pompous, ignorant statement when everyone knows what you did to a head football coach that was turning your culture around the right way. The Miami Dolphins opened up the season, Brian Flores' first game, to a 63-0 loss to the Baltimore Ravens. Some people questioned if they would win a football game that year, and they won 6. The next year, they had a winning record, and they lost in the playoffs. And then the following year, they had a winning record again, and you fired him. 3 years into an awful rebuild in which they traded away Minkah Fitzpatrick, Laramie Tunsil. They traded away talent on top of talent. And this man had you 2 back-to-back winning seasons, and you fired him? We knew there was something personal with that firing, Steven. And it's because Brian Flores wouldn't bend over and listen to the things that you were making him do that were illegal to the league. Brian Flores needs a head coaching job yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears should have hired him instead of Matt Eberflus, for being honest. But for Stephen Ross to go out there and make a statement like this, gloating of victory over Brian Flores, is a joke. And for that, this week, Stephen Ross.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
You got to be kidding me. All right, well,
I think I got one in place of Cottrell, and this is for all my Jaguars people. I'm mad as hell that we don't at least get a taste of Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne in the Hall of Fame game. Not only is it idiotic as an organization not to put them in for a couple snaps to get our team and our fan base excited about what they have been planning for the last several weeks, because they go to practice early to play in this Hall of Fame game. You're not getting the team excited about anything and not starting these two, at least for 1 or 2 series. I understand you don't want to get your starters hurt, but this is like, bring some excitement to this team. This is what we do every freaking year, man. This team is garbage. And I hate to say it as a Jaguars fan, every single year we do something so idiotic. Last year was Urban Meyer, and this year we're already starting off with a L by not at least letting these guys come in. Everybody here would like to see just one dump off pass on the screen to Travis Etienne and let the man go. Just give us a little taste of something. But you're benching your 2 starters in the Hall of Fame game out of the very first game of the season that everybody is going to be tuned into. Like, literally, the Jacksonville Jaguars are in the spotlight for the very first week of football. And it's crazy to me, man. I don't understand. And for that, I'll let these guys go ahead and carry it out. But that's you got to be kidding me.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Dante, I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't, because that is, tell me you don't want your fans to be excited about Jaguars football without telling me you don't want your fans to be excited for Jaguars football. Doug Peterson, you'll find, will do a lot of dopey things. But the one thing you will find that Doug Peterson will instill in that franchise is a group of guys that will run through a wall for him.
I don't think this is a Doug Peterson thing. We're more. I've been saying this for weeks, Gene. I don't know if you've heard me say this, but everybody on my community, they love when I say this because they start laughing. I said Shad Khan is more interested in AEW wrestling and selling tickets for hot girls to jump in the pool at Jacksonville Stadium.
It's fair.
I mean, it just is what it is at this point.
Telling the truth. Guys, Dante, let me just tell you, thank you so much. I apologize to all the listeners if I had any internet connection issues. The beginning of the show, I was dead nervous on everything because I had so many different things moving at once. But I appreciate you helping guide us through this, man. I look forward to working more and more with you, man. Huge fan of your work, huge fan of everything that you're doing. Tune in to ECG. They're doing a lot of great things. Come down Sunday, hang out with us. Dante, give us somewhat of a plug so like some of the guys that listen to this tomorrow can come down and hang out with us down at the Eagles.
Yeah, man. So we've been making a lot of moves. A lot of people have kind of joined in on us as content creators and things like that. And we got a bunch of cool shows coming up. Like tomorrow, we're doing the pre-show. We're going to do that for every Thursday night game that comes up throughout the season. So we're going to do a Sunday morning or Saturday morning show for college. And then we moved the podcast because of some members. And then, of course, I wanted to be able to help Gene and them out as much as I could. So I kind of moved my show out to Friday. My guys are so flexible, and I can't say enough good things about them. Everybody knows Don. I mean, this thing wouldn't be moving without Don. But shout out to Coach Dante, who's officially joined on as the third member. We miss Rob and the rest of the guys that used to, help us out there. But he's officially the third member, and you'll be seeing these guys come on our show too. We've always have dabbled in each other's podcasts, here and there. Whenever they needed me to come down, I always used to come down. And whenever we needed somebody to come over, they've always come over. So always good conversation. Like Gene said on Sunday, we're going to be handing out T-shirts. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen the T-shirts, Eagles colors. They say East Coast Gridiron Family on the front, got the cool logo on the back. So anybody that's able to make it down, Bill, are you coming down too, or are you staying at home that day?
I didn't know anything about this till right now, so I will unfortunately not be able to be there.
So I'll have Gene grab you a T-shirt.
All right.
Yeah, so I have Gene grab you a T-shirt in your size too, because we had a mix up in like our packaging. I had to tell you guys backstage on what happened, but so we got double the T-shirts that we're supposed to have right now. So I'll be giving them boys out like candy. So. Just come see us, man. We're going to be grilling out. If I can do a live show from there, we're going to do a live show with the guys. If not, we'll just pre-record it and then put it on our channel. But yeah, shout out to everybody that showed us love. It's amazing the growth that we've experienced, especially over on YouTube in these last couple months. It didn't come without any controversy, let me say that. So, like Gene was mentioning before, but hey, I went into this thing not knowing everybody's, not going to like us or like us. Like I knew the crowd was going to be 50-50, and who am I to think that everybody's going to like what we're doing or the people that we are. I just know that these guys have been really good guys to us. And that's all that matters, man, at the end of the day. If you rock with us, if you rock with them, I've been rocking with them for the longest time. I try to pop in when I can, but I know all of us are super busy with our own schedules too. But again, like I always say, if you guys decide to subscribe and like, I appreciate it. You didn't have to, but I always appreciate it. And you guys are literally giving this with your, with the click of a button, giving us what we want to see, and we're going to continue to grow this thing on both sides. So I'm happy I get to help them out and come subscribe to our stuff over at East Coast Gridiron.
Yo, thank you guys. I got one final shout out. Well, it's a double shout out. There's two very, 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 very important birthdays coming up in the following days. Tomorrow is my lovely mother, Gloria Walzak. We're going out to a nice Italian restaurant.
There you go.
Ristorante.
Where you guys going?
We're going to watch a movie. Hold on, I have the name. I want to shout I don't want too many people. I'm just kidding. I don't want too many people showing up there to meet a celebrity, You
don't want the autograph seekers?
I don't want to have that, all right? Well, we are going to Di Marino. Jersey.
Where's that at? Oh, it's in Jersey?
It's in Jersey. But Bistro Di Lamino. But And then also we'll be going to we'll go to the movies afterwards. But one of her gifts, and she loves it, is we're going to see Doors, Beatles, and Leonard Skinner cover in Atlantic City at Oceans.
Oh,
So
snap.
we're going down there. Tickets were like $29. It was amazing.
fun.
But, yeah. So with that being said, we have another birthday coming up this Friday. Wire to Wire Zone, Uncle Shally.
Yeah.
And can I welcome you back to the fold? Can I welcome you back to the Tuesday fold? Can I welcome you back as a birthday present?
You can. There's no more Tuesday controversy softball wise on the show.
We beat him so bad. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
That's inaccurate, but
I'm kidding.
yeah.
Shally,
back in the
happy
fold.
birthday, my friend.
Thanks, bud.
We beat him so bad that he decided to come back. We'll be playing for the chip next week.
You are.
Next week we're going for the chip. Hopefully KC's listening.
It'll be fun. It'll be good. I hope it's
We're
a
not
good
showing up
series.
defeated, bro. Everybody thinks that we're all this chirp. We're gonna run, we're gonna hit, and we're gonna play defense, and we're gonna walk out there with a chip and shock the world. Mark that shit down. You'll talk about it next week. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Give us a follow, give us a listen. We'll be big on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and follow East Coast Gridiron, Wire to Wire. And with that, we are signing out.
See you guys.